Hello, and welcome back to the Electronic Intifada's live stream for Tuesday, December 30th. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman with my colleagues Ali Abunimah, Jon Elmer, Asa Stanley, and Tamarat Nassar. It's day 816 of Israel's genocide in Gaza. Coming up, it's a special year-end show, and we'll be taking your questions. We'll be joined by some surprise guests to reflect on this past year and talk about what's ahead in 2026. Later on in the program, Jon will report on the Qassam Brigade's announcement of the deaths of senior commanders, including Chief of Staff Mohammed Sinwar and spokesman Abu Obaida. But first, let's take a look at the news. Here's a brief summary of some of the latest developments this week in Palestine. After more than 80 days into the so-called ceasefire agreement signed in October 2025, Israel continues to kill and injure Palestinians across the Gaza Strip while bombing, shelling, and destroying areas across the vague yellow line, a line which is constantly moving further westwards. Israel is also still preventing the entry of shelters and basic supplies during brutal storms and freezing temperatures, while tents are flooded and partially destroyed buildings collapse on top of people. At least 3 Palestinians were injured when Israeli soldiers targeted the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza, with witnesses saying the attack happened in an area from which Israeli forces had withdrawn under the purported ceasefire agreement. Israel carried out an air raid on the eastern areas of Burej camp in central Gaza, as well as artillery shelling east of Rafah and in eastern parts of Gaza City. The Gaza government media office stated on Sunday that Israel has committed 969 violations of the ceasefire agreement in the past 80 days, resulting in 418 Palestinians killed and more than 1,100 wounded. Such violations include nearly 300 direct shooting incidents against civilians, 54 military incursions into residential areas, 455 bombings and targeted attacks on Palestinians, and more than 160 bombings of homes, institutions, and other civilian buildings. Quote, the Gaza Strip is facing a slow death as the occupation continues to evade its obligations under the agreement and humanitarian protocols. It has failed to deliver even the minimum agreed upon amounts of aid, the media office said, adding that Israel's ongoing refusal to let in the necessary quantities of food, medicine, water, and fuel is deepening the catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Only 42% of the expected humanitarian aid has been allowed in, while only 10% of the needed fuel trucks have entered, leaving hospitals, bakeries, and water and sanitation facilities unable to operate. The media office reiterated its previous warnings about the deepening, deliberate crisis for Palestinians during the winter months as Israel prevents the entry of prefabricated caravans and shelter materials, which remain just kilometers away on the other side of the crossings. Quote, we emphasize that the continuation of these violations constitutes a dangerous circumvention of the ceasefire and an attempt to impose a humanitarian equation based on subjugation, starvation, and extortion, the media office stated, adding that we hold the Israeli occupation fully responsible for the ongoing deterioration of the humanitarian situation and for the lives lost and property destroyed during a period when a complete and sustainable ceasefire is supposed to be in place. The illegal Israeli blockade and ban on the entry of temporary housing units have effectively eliminated all options for thousands of families, forcing them to remain in destroyed or severely damaged homes that have become time bombs liable to collapse at any moment, said Euromed Human Rights Monitor this week. The human rights group stated that, quote, Israel is using the blockade as a tool of genocide and the creation of deadly living conditions by blocking reconstruction and repair, preventing the entry of materials and equipment needed to clear rubble and restore homes, water and sanitation systems, and electricity networks, and by obstructing humanitarian response efforts and undermining relief agencies' ability to provide even minimal protection. As a result, Euromed added, civilians are forced to choose between remaining in dilapidated buildings on the verge of collapse or sheltering in fragile tents that offer no protection from winter cold or rain. Mahmoud Bassal, the spokesperson for Gaza's civil defense, said that a recent storm, coupled with Israel's deprivation of basic shelter materials, killed at least 2 more Palestinians this week, including a woman who was killed when a weakened wall collapsed on top of her, and a 7-year-old child who fell into a water well and drowned during heavy rainfall. Quote, "We are living in a catastrophic reality created by this genocide on Gaza, where there is no infrastructure, no safe areas, and no areas suitable for living," Bassel stated. He said Palestinians have known neither rest nor safety since the start of the genocide, and that without the restoration of basic services and life-sustaining infrastructure, more people will die in the days ahead. In another statement, Bassel said on Monday that at least 18 buildings have completely collapsed, resulting in significant human and material losses, and more than 110 residential buildings have partially collapsed, posing a direct threat to the lives of thousands of residents living inside or near them. The civil defense spokesman emphasized that, quote, "tents have proven completely ineffective in the Gaza Strip, offering no protection from the cold or rain, and are no longer a viable humanitarian solution under these harsh conditions." Reporter Badr Tabash recorded this footage of seawater flooding a tent camp in Mawasi Khan Yunis on Sunday, submerging shelters and destroying what little belongings families have left. Tabash recorded another video of the flooding, which was highlighted by the social media collective Translating Palestine, who added, quote, "For thousands forced to live meters from the shoreline after being expelled from their homes, the sea has become another threat, exposing how displacement sites offer no protection from weather, flooding, or basic risks to life. Still, the US and the Israeli occupation continue to block all forms of shelter from entering the Strip.
يا الله يا جماعة البحر دخل على خيمة جماعة في منطقة مصر. هذا أصبح مسمع، الناس صارت تصحى تلاقي حالها في الخيم.
That's from reporter Badr Tabash over the weekend. Gaza's civil defense says that 25 Palestinians, including 6 children, have died due to the extreme cold and lack of proper shelters, including building collapses since the start of the winter season. On Monday, a 2-month-old baby, Arkan Firas Musleh, was the latest infant to die as a result of the extreme cold, Al Jazeera reported. Gaza's Ministry of Health also announced the death of a Palestinian man when a building collapsed onto a tent in the Tel al-Hawa neighborhood of Gaza City on Monday. 4 out of every 5 children in Gaza will enter the new year still facing crisis levels of hunger, despite the agreement by Israeli authorities 2 months ago to allow more aid in, including food, according to the international charity Save the Children, following the recent release of new data on hunger and malnutrition. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, the leading international authority on the severity of hunger crises, published a new report warning that 1.6 million people in Gaza, or 77% of the population, including about 800,000 children, will continue facing acute food insecurity into 2026, especially since Israel continues to prevent the entry of dairy, meat, eggs, fish, and fresh produce into Gaza markets. Ahmed Alnaouq, a regional director for Save the Children, stated, quote, "As the year draws to a close and some people start to sit back, do not be fooled into thinking the suffering in Gaza is over. Far from it. Hunger and malnutrition bring multiple physical harms to children's bodies, but the impacts are not just short-term. We know from experience that for any community, widespread malnutrition has lifelong consequences for people, from underweight newborns and stunted growth in early childhood to reduced learning and earning potential later in life, perpetuating cycles of poverty. As well as inflicting harm on individuals, these are consequences that threaten the very fabric of Palestinian society for generations to come. Al-Hindawi added that, quote, Gaza cannot become a dumping ground for the worst of humanity. These are ordinary children and families who just want to pick up their lives after years of horror. But day after day, a safe and healthy future gets further out of reach. Because of Israel's blockade on fuel, medical staff at Al-Awda Hospital in Nuseirat refugee camp in central Gaza reported that electricity was out for at least 2 days this week, forcing all departments to shut down, putting patients at serious risk. Journalist Anwar Abu Sleihe, reporting from the darkened hospital, recorded himself on December 27th, saying that the crisis left the intensive care unit, the radiology department, operating rooms, and emergency reception out of service. He said that the hospital's director, Dr. Rifat Al-Majdalawi, highlighted the crisis particularly for pregnant women, as Al-Awda is the only medical facility in central Gaza that can provide maternity and delivery services. And it has been 1 year since the director of Kamal Adwan Hospital, the pediatrician Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya, was abducted by Israeli forces from the facility and since subjected to systematic torture inside Israeli detention camps. He was taken hostage after the army besieged and bombed the hospital, targeted and killed his child, shot him with a quadcopter drone while he was attending to patients, and destroyed the hospital over and over again. Since his abduction on December 27th, 2024, Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya has been held in Israeli torture prisons under the designation of unlawful combatant, a draconian classification that allows indefinite detention without charge or trial. In October, as we reported at the time, Dr. Abu Safiya's lawyer confirmed that an Israeli court rubber-stamped the extension of his arbitrary detention for 6 months, or until April 2026. He has been systematically beaten, tortured, denied medical attention, and has been subjected to deliberate starvation, losing 40 kilograms of his body weight, according to his legal team. Dr. Abu Safiya's family has been regularly posting updates on his plight and his deteriorating health condition. This week, marking 1 year of the doctor's brutal captivity, his family posted the following statement. In this white coat, he walked alone amidst death, destruction, and in front of tanks, not because he was fearless, but because his oath and his humanity were greater than any fear. He refused to abandon the children and the wounded at the hospital, and for that, he was detained. This image is a testament to the courage of the man who was the last line of defense for life, and it is the very same scene that ended with his unjust arrest. A full year of injustice has passed. Today, we ask for nothing but his freedom. Please share his story to keep his voice alive, Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya's family stated. On Monday, the Qassam Brigades officially announced that their longtime spokesman, Hudhaifa Samir Abdallah al-Kahlut, who used the nom de guerre Abu Obaida, had been killed along with his wife and children in an Israeli attack on his home in August. One son, Ibrahim, is reportedly the only one who survived. A new spokesman who adopted the same moniker of Abu Obaida made the announcement on Monday. Jon will have much more on the assassination of Abu Obaida and other Qassam Brigades leaders later on in the program. We've published many features on the Electronic Intifada in the last week, but we wanted to highlight Gutted Gaza Buildings, a Last Resort for Families Seeking Shelter by 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞, writing from Gaza. Around Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City, entire structures and buildings lean at sharp angles, their floors and ceilings sagging as if melting, and staircases hang in midair. These rain-soaked ruins are not fit for habitation. They are so unstable that one gust of wind or a night of heavy rain could bring them down. Yet displaced people are living inside them due to a lack of tents and available space at shelters across Gaza. I went to schools and shelters, but no one accepted us, Sumaya Nabhan, 32, said. There was simply no space. I have an injured husband and 3 children. If I had a tent, even if it meant living in the street, I would choose it over this building. Before the genocide, Nabhan and her family lived in a modest, single-room home in the northern Gaza Strip area of Tal al-Zatar, but that home was destroyed by Israeli strikes. For the past 7 months, they have squatted in this tilted building in Al-Rimal neighborhood, which lists so heavily to the right that visitors instinctively brace their bodies against the slope. Even the tea kettle is tilted, Nabhan said. Nabhan and her husband cleared just enough rubble to squeeze inside the building, but the roof leaks like an open pipe whenever it rains, and stray dogs wander in at night. I stay awake all night guarding my children from the dogs, she said. What does this house mean to me, she said. Shelter. Nothing in life matters more, not even food. Social media users and news outlets have documented numerous buildings collapsing in Gaza and Palestinians being trapped under the rubble of buildings that, damaged by Israeli strikes, have subsequently collapsed under winter rain. Sumaya Nabhan said the danger of living in such a structure haunts her. Yet her housing options are severely limited, as 81% of all the structures in Gaza are damaged as of October 2025, according to UN analysis of satellite imagery. I live with sadness and despair, she said. Sometimes I wish for death rather than this. Her only dream now is a closed tent. I feel like I'm living somewhere unfit for humans, she said. Islam Al-Faram, 37, has pitched a tent on what used to be the front yard of her home, in between 2 partially collapsed structures that lean at dangerous angles. Stones fall from them, she said of the neighboring buildings. Today, stones fell on us because of the rain. Al-Faram and her husband cleared the rubble from their old home in Al-Rimal until they could erect tarps where the yard once was. They decided to stay here because this was their home, even if only the ground beneath it remains. This place holds our memories, she said. Even if we're in a tent, it feels like part of our soul is still here. Those are excerpts from Gutted Gaza Buildings, A Last Resort for Families Seeking Shelter by 𝐓𝐡𝐞, writing from Gaza on electronicintifada.net. And now, as we always do, we wanted to highlight people expressing joy, determination, and resilience across Gaza and around the world. Despite 27 months of an ongoing genocide, the graduating class of a new cadre of doctors stood together in celebration after passing their board exams in front of one of the burned-out buildings of Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City last week. Dr. Jamel Salha posted that video from the ceremony. The Ministry of Health in Gaza said that these doctors are part of the Shield of Humanity cohort and stated, quote, "Despite the genocide, you are the cure." And that's it for the news roundup. As always, go to electronicintifada.net for much more, especially to read our new features by our brave writers in Gaza. You're watching the Electronic Intifada live stream. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman with my colleague Ali Abunimah. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Nora. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's always so devastating to contrast the news you're giving us with the absence of news everywhere else. I'm not seeing Gaza on the front pages most of the time. And as you're showing us, the situation remains utterly devastating and desperate for so many people, as we're going to talk about different aspects of that through this program.
Yeah, we will. I know I'm in LA visiting family this week, and I look, they still get the physical copy of the LA Times, and I looked through the entire newspaper yesterday and did not see one word about Gaza. It is just remarkable that the corporate media has moved on, which they've always wanted to do anyway, and the genocide is ongoing. Yeah, it's
it is.
despicable. Anyway, we're the
Well,
front page, someone says.
yeah.
So that's
Well,
right.
we're here to keep Gaza and Palestine and all the people who care about Gaza and Palestine front and center. And we've
Yeah.
got a lot to talk about today in this special year-end show. And so let's bring on our colleagues Asa and John.
Hello. There we go. Amazing. Yeah, today's a special day. We have a bunch of special guests that will be joining us later on. And we wanted to start off with some questions from the audience. Some of you emailed your questions, and others are just spontaneously sending them in the comments. So if you'd like to do that too, please go ahead and put your questions in the comments, and we'll take them.
Yeah, we'll try and take them from, I think most people are probably watching on YouTube, but if you are watching on Rumble or are we on Twitch? Is it Twitch?
I think so. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm aging myself here. We'll try to pull questions from all these different sources as much as we can, and just a chance to hear from everyone. So
Great.
We have Tamara with us, and she's going to start throwing questions at us, right?
Yeah. Okay. Ali, do you want to read it out?
Sure. What aid groups are still functioning on the ground in Gaza? That is, which organizations are actually getting food and shelter in, and where are they able to distribute it in Gaza? And that's a question from Paige. Thank you for that question, Paige. It's a crucial question, one we get all the time. I tried to dig into this a little bit to be able to give good information. And what I can say is that the UN and its agencies are still functioning on the ground. So we're talking about UNRWA, the World Food Program, and other UN agencies and partner agencies, which might mean non-UN NGOs, so major NGOs, development charities, and so on. I was trying to find a list of which ones are part of the UN partnership program, and I couldn't find a list. So the short answer, I would say, is that you should do your own due diligence. If you're thinking, for example, of making a donation to a group, and we're talking about some of the major big name international development charities, go to their website and see what they say about whether they are currently working in Gaza. Many of them are fundraising for work in Gaza, but you should check and see what they're actually doing and how up to date that information is. And if it's not clear, write to them and ask them and say, I'm interested in helping people in Gaza right now. Are you currently working in Gaza? I think that's the best way to do your due diligence on that. I'll also say that the aid that is getting into Gaza overall has increased since October 10th, the so-called ceasefire, but is still far short. So just to give you the numbers there from the UN, since October 10th, so in the last 81 days, a total of 9,400 trucks have entered Gaza. That might sound like a lot, but it is just over 100 trucks a day on average, which, as we know, is far short of what's needed and far short of the pre-war or pre-genocide total of 600 trucks a day. And now, of course, the need is much, much greater than that. So still only a fraction getting in. But there are agencies working on the ground. Middle East Children's Alliance, an organization that we've spoken about in the past, is working on the ground. There are other charities that, again, you should look at and see if what they say about what they're doing.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And it's constantly changing too, right? A number of well-established international aid organizations have had to go through multiple relentless bureaucratic hoops with the Israeli government. There's also, we can talk about this later, but the Israeli government also basically regulated UNRWA yesterday, completely stripping it of any sort of agency that it has to provide not just aid, but of course medical care and education to Palestinians. And so there's a lot that Israel wants to be as cruel as possible, obviously, and so.
And people are in the comments, they're naming groups that they say are working in Gaza. I don't, I'm just sharing what people are saying. You can read the comments, but people talking about Doctors Without Borders, the Samir Project, of course, and others that people are naming. Again, my advice is check into them. If you're not sure or you want to know more, ask them questions. You have a right to know, if you're thinking of making a donation, where it's going and how it's helping.
All right, another question. Could you revisit the question about the World Central Kitchen and how they or other groups are getting supplies through when so little aid is reaching people? World Central Kitchen packed up and left, I believe.
It's not clear to me, because I looked at their website this morning, and again, from looking at their website, it looks like they're working in Gaza. They're certainly raising money to do work in Gaza. So again, where it's vague, I would encourage people to write to these organizations, email them and say, what are you doing? Or check their, I didn't do this, but you can check their Twitter X feed or social media and see if they're posting, current updates about work they're doing in Gaza. But in general, groups like World Central Kitchen and others are able to work in Gaza through this UN partnership program that was set up, called the UN 2720 mechanism. It all gets, of course, it has to be coordinated with Israel. Israel puts all kinds of obstacles in the way, but some aid is getting through. Some groups are able to work in Gaza. It's not enough. I'm sure they all need support, but do your due diligence if you're in doubt about the organization.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go to another question. How accurate is the data provided by 𝐄𝐥𝐞's recent report regarding aid delivered into Gaza? And 𝐄𝐥𝐞, of course, is the bureaucratic arm of the Israeli military.
It's the Israeli genocidal military. This is a simple one. I don't take anything 𝐄𝐥𝐞 says at face value. I look at the UN. The UN, they actually have a website, UN Ops, UN 2720 mechanism for Gaza. If you just search for it, UN 2720, it gives detailed statistics about exactly what is getting in. I would trust the UN, not 𝐄𝐥𝐞.
Yeah, 𝐄𝐥𝐞's literally the IDF, and that question's from Joe, so that's a good question.
Yeah, it's important. All right, can atrocity propaganda and hoaxes be perpetually sustained? Can they have an inverse effect and lead to increased support for Palestinian solidarity? I think that question is answering itself.
The answers to that are yes and yes.
Yes,
because they have nothing else.
Yeah, I mean,
they can't help themselves lying, even when
sustain.
Sorry, Nora. They can't help themselves lying, even when it backlashes on them, which it does.
But it's interesting, isn't it, Asa, how it really hasn't taken in the way it used to. I mean, when you're, as I think a lot of us are who are here on screen or watching, we do look at social media a lot. That gives you a certain lens on the world. But it's interesting to me that, and tell me if your impressions are different. I want to hear what people have to say in the comments too, that supporters keep pushing the hoaxes, the October 7th hoaxes and afterwards. But you don't see a lot of kind of just, I don't know what the word is, unaffiliated or normal people or ordinary people picking that up. It just hasn't taken. So social media can actually exaggerate the extent to which anyone believes Israel's lies, but I think it's actually very little. I don't know. That's my sense. So yeah, I would say it has backfired, and I think debunking it, as we and other media have tried to do, is an important part of that.
Yeah, and that one's from Oliver. I also want to thank Joe and 𝐄𝐥𝐿𝐿 for the previous questions. Ali argued Hamas or Fatah must give up resistance or collaboration. Rank and file Fatah condemned their leaders' atrocities. Could resistance victories empower pro-Palestine Fatah leaders? That's a question for Jon.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we saw in Gaza over the last 2 years showed the path forward for Palestinians in their unity. The resistance was unified. The people were behind the resistance. The resistance spoke with one voice. I suppose you could split hairs a little bit about Fatah and the Palestinian Authority. Fatah tries to do that, as your question points out. They condemn their leadership. The factions in Gaza do everything they can in their naming to distance themselves from Fatah while still maintaining the wider rubric of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades. So I think we saw the way that unity can work. But I think Ali's point, not to speak for Ali, is that the PA is not interested in that, and that there's no conversation with the PA about that way forward. The way forward, and Hamas has tried for many years to unify. It was one of the priorities of Yahya Sinwar, and the PA has zero interest in that. And that was before the genocide. And then the genocide happened, and they their positions got somehow worse during the genocide. And I think they've made it, they've precluded them being any agent of change at all. And I don't think we're going to see that.
I'll just add something about that, and that's a really interesting question from Liam. I stand by that position, and I can simply, but it's maybe an interesting discussion we should have in the new year, the extent to which Fatah even exists beyond the PA, because it's easy enough to posture and say, I'm against this, I'm against that the leadership is doing, but you're still part of the structure that is, sustaining you and paying your salary or whatever it is. And so when people give that up, and I'm not saying, that convinces me more that they're not just trying to have it both ways, because there are people in Palestine and the West Bank who are opposing the PA. And so I would say I'm skeptical that such independent forces actually exist under the umbrella of Fatah, but we'll see.
And in a related question from Carol, can you talk to us about PLO reform? Hamas was in favor of this, but is it possible to take place among Palestinians without external influence? What's the state of the PLO?
The obstacle to PLO reform has been, again, Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority and Fatah. They don't want reform because they don't want to give up their monopoly on power, such as their power is. And they don't want, they are committed to delegitimizing Hamas and armed resistance and the other resistance factions, as committed to delegitimizing them as the European Union is, as the United States is, as other enemies of the Palestinian struggle are. And so I don't see that PLO reform going anywhere. As long as you have, to me, it comes back to this basic formula. I've said it time and again. You can't have unity between collaboration on the one hand and resistance and standing up for your rights on the other. They don't mix like oil and water.
Yeah. All right. Another question, a couple more, and then we'll go to our next segment and then come back with more questions, of course. The problem in Palestine is now framed as, quote, Jewish supremacy rather than Zionism. Does this clarify or blur political ideology and Jewish identity, weakening the structural analysis? From Jawad. Um,
Why don't you
as the resident Jew?
No, just because it's something I was just remembering. You made that fantastic video a couple of years ago, which is still a classic, about why anti-Zionism isn't anti-Semitism, and I think you addressed this topic very directly in that.
I mean, I don't know if it's framed as Jewish supremacy rather than Zionism. I think that Zionism is an ideology that incorporates a supremacy ideology. So it is Jewish supremacy. I think that that's the kind of the thrust behind Israeli society and Israeli kind of a cultural state project as well. Zionism obviously is a political ideology. It has nothing to do inherently with the Jewish religion, but the majority of Jewish people, not just in the entity, but around the world, have unfortunately adopted it as a personal identity, and have subscribed to this notion of supremacy over the indigenous people in Palestine. And it's something that needs to be reckoned with within Jewish community. And I at this point, I don't know. I personally, I don't, and this is just me speaking personally, I don't really, I don't put a lot of weight on identity myself. I don't think that they're, I don't know, this whole Jewish identity thing, it's now completely enmeshed with supremacist ideology, I think. And if that, the only way that is going to change is the destruction of this ideology and the, the reckoning within Jewish communities, whether they're here in the US or in Canada or Europe or in occupied Palestine, to get rid of it and to take responsibility for the way that Jewishness and Judaism has been used to perpetuate ethnic cleansing, genocide, and supremacy. And so I don't know if it's weakening the structural analysis to kind of to merge this this idea of Jewish supremacy along with Zionism. I think they're one and the same. I don't know. I don't really have an interest in talking about Jewish identity apart from what it's responsible for at this point.
Well, I think that's very well said, Nora. What I would add to it is that just to remember that Zionism as a political ideology, as a politico-religious ideology, did not begin as a Jewish movement. It began as a Protestant Christian movement. That's long before it was a Jewish movement. The idea of Jews returning to Palestine was an anti-Semitic Protestant Christian idea. And much later, in the 19th century, it was adopted by some Jews, by a minority of Jews.
Yeah.
And those Jews were generally secular and not religious. And then it assumed this the notion that is being pushed by Zionists now, that Zionism equals Judaism. They're allowed to say that, but critics of Zionism aren't. Right. So Zionists want to have it both ways. They say that, if you criticize Zionism, it means you're anti-Semitic and you hate Jews. But if we, but they say that Zionism is Judaism. That's the claim they make. So, they want to have it both ways. And when you talk about a term like Jewish supremacy, that can be a very loaded term depending on the context where you use it, because as much as Zionists falsely accuse people of anti-Semitism, there is such a thing as anti-Semitism. And classic Western Christian hatred of Jews exists. It's not widespread now, contrary to what Zionists claim.
It's not institutional anymore.
It's not institutional.
That's the main
but
point.
It certainly exists. And so that's why when you use a term like Jewish supremacy, you have to be precise about how and where you're using it.
Yeah.
Is it a valid term to talk about the situation in Palestine? Absolutely yes, because for example, not that I need a license from them, but B'Tselem, the Israeli human rights group, describes the situation in Palestine in its report a few years ago. Finally, long after Palestinians said it, B'Tselem finally issued a report admitting that the situation is apartheid. And they said that it is a regime of Jewish supremacy over all Palestinians. Those are the words of B'Tselem. So they're describing an actual reality. But if you were to take the term and say, oh, well, Jewish supremacy means, Jews control the United States. Jews don't control the United States. Are they generally an influential socioeconomic group? Yes. But they don't control the United States. That's not the same thing. So
no,
I think
it's an inversion of what the actual power dynamic is too.
Yeah,
it's a U.S. project. Yeah.
Yeah, the U.S. project is a settler colonial project that uses Israel and uses Zionism, just as it used apartheid South Africa, just as it uses other illegitimate colonial regimes. So you always have to be precise about what you're describing and where, and then I think you avoid the problem of blurring things. I mean, we could talk about this for an hour, but I'm going to try and sort of just keep it in sort of within a reasonable time. But it's a good question, Joe.
Just to add a quick point, I agree with what you said at the beginning, Nora, about sort of it's not one or the other. Jewish supremacy is Zionism. Zionism is Jewish supremacy. Like, it's the most succinct way to describe Zionism, that it's a settler colonial movement based on the idea that Jews are superior to everybody else.
And the reason why that makes sense is because Zionism, when Jews like Theodor Herzl started, adopting Zionism as a Jewish idea from the Christian anti-Semites who invented it, they modeled it on other forms of European nationalism and European colonialism, which were always racist. They were either internally racist. This country belongs to this superior ethnic group and not that inferior one, if you're talking about the formation of nation states within Europe. And when it came to European colonialism, the idea is that we superior Europeans are going to go to Africa, Asia, South America, and civilize the barbarians and savages. And so Jewish colonialists, Jewish Zionists, modeled their Jewish nationalism on white supremacist Christian European nationalism. So they saw themselves as superior to the natives in Palestine and, to the Arabs, the Christians, whatever. And that, they talked about Zionism in this benevolent way, that we will help to tame and civilize the natives. So yes, it was always an explicitly racist Jewish supremacist ideology.
Yeah. Yep. And for much more on this, you can see the documentary that we made in 2021, I believe, why anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, on our YouTube page. It's also pinned to the top of my Twitter account. All right. One more question maybe, and then we'll go to our guest. Maybe let's just go. Yeah, let's have let's bring our first guest on, and then we'll come back for more questions.
All right. Maybe we'll even have a
Ahmed.
question for our guest. Yeah, let's bring Ahmed Alnaouq on. Hi, Ahmed. How are you?
Hi.
I'm okay. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me again.
Thank you. Thank you, Ahmed. It's always a pleasure to see you and to have you back. And for those who know you and for those who don't know you, I'll just remind them, of course, that you are the director and co-founder of We Are Not Numbers, which is a fantastically important project helping to train and give a voice and a platform to young writers from Gaza. The Electronic Intifada is very proud that we have published many We Are Not Numbers writers over the years. It was a project that our dear friend 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿 was close to and supported as well. You grew up in Gaza. You're now based in London. And you are also the co-host of Palestine, or the host of Palestine Deep Dive, where you engage in really fantastic, in-depth conversations with notable guests from and about Palestine. That recent episode with 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿 is fantastic and just so sharp. And what's wonderful is that these are very in-depth discussions. So Ahmed, just give us a sense right now, given the urgency of the situation, what you're hearing from friends and family right now in Gaza.
Well, I just put a question in our WhatsApp group of We Are Not Numbers, and I asked our 200 writers to comment on what they are feeling right now after 2 years of genocide. And I think only one writer responded. Her name is Taqwa, and she said, thank you. I'm quoting her, and she said, thank you for your effort, Ahmed, but I'm sorry to say that no language in the world can describe the surface of what we feel. Thank you. Another writer responded, and he said, Ahmed, we're just tired. We're tired of slogans. We're tired of statements. We're tired of social media and posts. And I believe that really depicts what the people in Gaza are feeling. They are tired. They are exhausted. They have lost hope in the world, on the media. They are tired of what is happening in Gaza, and they're tired of the world. They're very desperate, and that actually sums up what is really happening in Gaza. Me, I'm a Palestinian who lives in London. You know, just before Christmas, I moved houses, and then when I came to my new flat, I could not operate the heater and the boiler, and I was very annoyed. For a moment, I was very annoyed, and I thought, okay, it's winter, it's Christmas, I'm cold, I can't have a shower. And then another moment, I thought about the people in Gaza. The people in Gaza, they have been living in tents for the past 2 years, floods, rain, genocide, killing, murder, starvation. And I don't understand how the people in Gaza are feeling right now. And I say language now fails us. Language fails us. It fails the Palestinians in Gaza. There are no words that can describe what is really happening in Gaza. No words can describe what the Palestinians in Gaza are feeling right now. Only a few days without hot water, without heating in London made me angry. But what the Palestinians can feel right now, I don't believe that there are some words that can suffice what the people in Gaza are feeling. And that's why maybe we have seen that the people in Gaza have reduced their activity on social media. They're not reporting as they used to in the genocide, not because the suffering is less, not because the killing is less, not because the starvation is less, but because people are depleted. People are tired. They're exhausted. They're exhausted of what they are feeling, and they're exhausted of speaking up. They're exhausted of sharing their feelings on social media because no one is feeling them. We have talked a lot about the mainstream media and how they're not covering Gaza, but also the Palestinians are tired right now.
It's very, very sobering, Ahmed, and you know, we're always talking about how we can keep Gaza from fading out of view, of keeping up the momentum, keeping up the energy, and that's why people are here watching and listening to us today. And you know, that what you said is very hard to hear, but at the same time, we are continuing our efforts, and you are continuing your efforts. So let's focus on some of the positives or some of the strengths. What are some of the highlights from your work with We Are Not Numbers and Palestine Deep Dive over the past year that you're proud of, that you think have made a difference, that have had the potential to really educate and mobilize people? What are the kinds of things you've done and you're thinking of doing?
Yes, Ali. As I said, the people in Gaza are tired, but in We Are Not Numbers and Deep Dive, we have not tired. We have continued to speak up. We have continued to write. Our writers in Gaza and We Are Not Numbers, they have continued to speak up, and they have continued to write their stories. Every day we publish a story or two on We Are Not Numbers. Even when you started your live show, 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜 wrote this amazing, wonderful story, and she's a writer of We Are Not Numbers. I'm saying this, we are tired, but we are continuing our work. We, as We Are Not Numbers, as the management of We Are Not Numbers, we do not have the luxury of tiring and being exhausted. We have to continue. But I also, this was also a message for our listeners, for the non-Palestinians. If the Palestinians one day are tired, and they have all the right to be tired, you should not tire. You should speak up. You should cover what is happening in Gaza. And We Are Not Numbers, we continue to write. We Are Not Numbers book has been doing really, really well. It became an instant bestseller in the UK and in Ireland. In America, it's doing very, very well. The first print of We Are Not Numbers was sold out in the first week in the US. It is now translated into many languages, including Arabic and Japanese and Italian, and many translations are coming as well. And that says a lot. It says that the people are thirsty to hearing and to.
Were you surprised by that, Ahmed, by the reaction that the book got?
A little. I expected it will do well, but I did not expect it will do that well. To be honest, I was surprised, but it shouldn't be a surprise.
Talk a little bit. You know, for some people will be seeing this for the first time. This book was launched earlier in 2025, and I was very excited by that. I think this is one of the highlights of the year, and it's published by this copy, which I bought when I was in Ireland in May, is published by Penguin, right? I don't know if it's the same publisher in the US, but major publisher. Talk a little bit. What is this book for those who are hearing this for the first time?
Well, this is not my book. It is a book. It is a collection of stories that were written over the past 10 years in Gaza by 59 Palestinian young writers. Some of these writers are here with us. Some of them have been. 4 of our writers were killed in Gaza genocide. Most of our writers lost family members. Most of them lived in Gaza. All of them actually lived in Gaza, and they were writing their personal human stories behind the numbers that we often see in the news. So all of the stories, you'll find 74 stories written by young people in Gaza. All of them describe what it really means to be a Gazan, what it really means to live in Gaza under the blockade, under the genocide, under the wars, what it means to live and breathe the air of Gaza. It is not a gloomy book that talks about suffering and pain and destruction. It also talks about life. It also talks about what it means to being a Palestinian in Gaza. So I can't say it's a hard read. It's a very illuminating read. When you read it, you will not be the same, because you will hear the very personal stories of the people in Gaza, who are young, who are not affiliated with any political party, who are just young people who are writing their hearts out to the world in English, in a language that you will understand.
And what's
that? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so go ahead, Nora.
I was just going to say, I love that, and I think maybe if you could talk a little bit more about some of the stories that are inside, and I think it's so important, because there's this way in which kind of mainstream narrative about Palestinians, especially Palestinians in Gaza, is framed. They're either, of course, dehumanized savages, terrorists, or they're eternal victims. They're unable to defend themselves. It's like this very 2D, flattening of an entire people. And, so I think something that your book does so well, and you just mentioned this, that it also, yes, it talks about the lived experiences of those who are writing during this genocide, and on top of decades of colonialism and occupation, but it also illuminates the beauty of Gaza, and this, like, just such a rich tapestry of community and tradition and joy and food, and
Yes.
talk about some of what that highlights, and and maybe an example of that kind of story that's in there.
One of my favorite stories in We Are Not Numbers is a story written by my friend Ahmed Alnaouq, and he says the title of that story is "I Want the World to Know," and he says that he wants the world to know that Gaza, that we Palestinians are neither victims nor heroes. We are just humans like you, who live, who love, who laugh, who go to doctors, who go to school, who hand naively written love letters to their girlfriends and all of that. But that is something that we really focus on in our work, and We Are Not Numbers. We are fighting the dehumanization of the Palestinian people. And when I say we fight the dehumanization of the Palestinian people, I don't only mean the dehumanization of the Palestinian people by the mainstream media or by the Zionists or by our enemies, but also by our friends who think of us as we are superheroes, as if we have supernatural powers. No, we're not that. We're neither victims, we're nor heroes. We are just human beings who are striving to live under occupation, under this humiliation. We are, yes, we are heroes, we are victims, but we're not this or that. We are all of them at the same time. If you go to Gaza, if you go to Palestine, you will find people who are amazing, wonderful heroes, like my brother, like my family. You will find also some collaborators who work with Israel. But with We Are Not Numbers, we try to depict the whole of the picture about Palestine, all of it. We do not try to exclude one aspect of life in Gaza. And that, I believe, that is very important for our allies as well. Do not expect that we will be resilient forever. Do not expect that we will be superheroes, that we will alone fight occupation and win eventually. No, we are a group of people who have our downsides, and we have our heroes, but we also need help from the international community. I say that the Palestinian cause is not a cause for only the Palestinians. It is a cause for humanity, for everyone who cares about justice and freedom. And we want everyone to be involved in this cause. And if they are going to be involved, they need to understand Palestine as it is, without over glorification of the Palestinian people, and without the dehumanization of the Palestinian people.
And because guess what, Ahmed, human beings don't have to be perfect to have rights.
Exactly.
Exactly. Because there is this discourse, this really poisonous discourse about Palestine that it comes not just from Donald Trump and open enemies of the Palestinian rights, but even from so-called friends that the Palestinians have to jump through all these hoops before they can deserve their rights or statehood or self-determination. No, Palestinians are allowed to be imperfect and still have their rights. They don't have to be perfect victims. It is an extraordinary book, Ahmed, and I love it. And that piece by Ahmed Alnaouq is one of the really most charming pieces in this. And there are many pieces that are hard to read, many that are very funny. I laughed a lot when I read a lot of the pieces in this book. And I'm pleased to say that we have 10 copies that we're going to give away to people. And you're going to sign them, which is wonderful. We're so grateful for that. And people, I can hear them saying, well, how can I get a copy? Well, it's very simple. There's two ways. I mean, we're going to pick at random because we have 10 copies. Maybe we'll try and get a few more, but we'll have at least 10. So if you make a donation to electronicintifada.net today, you can go to the website and say donate now, click donate now in the top right corner, or the links are in the description of the YouTube. And if you put all your information in when you make the donation, and we have your address, we will automatically put you in the draw, but you do not have to make a donation. This is open for everyone. And so if you want to be included in the draw, just send your name and address to questions@electronicintifada.net by email, questions@electronicintifada.net. Do not post your name and address in the comments. Email it to us privately. And just a couple of caveats is that this offer is not valid anywhere where it is prohibited, and we'll do our best to send books anywhere in the world as long as that's practically possible, but we can't guarantee that we can mail to every country. So we'll try to make this as open to everyone as possible. So if you make a donation today, you'll be automatically entered. You don't have to make a donation. Just send your name and address to questions@electronicintifada.net, and we will pick at random. And we'll figure out that it might take us a few weeks to figure out the logistics, because Ahmed will sign them, and we'll get them out to you. So be patient. But we're so pleased. And if you see this book, it's a great gift. It's just such a good way. If people say, I saw someone asking in the comments, what book would you give someone to learn about Gaza? This is the perfect book, because it's Gaza from the people who know it best. And starting 10 years ago, starting in 2015, so you get to almost live in Gaza through the book for 10 years up to the present, sadly. So it's a wonderful gift that you and your colleagues, Ahmed, have given the world, and it's one of the best things that happened this year.
Thank you.
It is incredible. And yeah, I was telling you before we started the live stream that like I see it in every bookstore here, on the West Coast that I walk into, and it's not surprising that it's getting such a phenomenal reception, but it's comforting that it is out there, and that more and more people are reading it and giving it to their family members, donating it to libraries. It's remarkable, and it speaks to just the incredible amount of work that you and your colleagues have done at We Are Not Numbers. My mom is a mentor with We Are Not Numbers. She's been working with poets in Gaza, and I know that that's been, just such a privilege for her and for so many other people around the world who are mentoring and working with writing students there. I think it's provided, a real lifeline for people outside of Gaza, to be able to work on something collectively, and not just sit back and watch helplessly. And I think your book and your project does that so well, Ahmed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I have to say that this book made it out there. It succeeded despite efforts of our enemy to silence it, to destroy the book. I remember when We Are Not Numbers was first launched last year, many Zionist organizations started to attack the retailers and the bookshops that are selling We Are Not Numbers, because I am one of the co-authors. And despite all of that, We Are Not Numbers did well, and it was everywhere. I've seen people read it from Europe to the UK, America, and even in Italy, in Italian, Arabic, and Japanese, and so many other people are reading it in many other languages. And this is what the Palestinian people, I have to say it again, it's not my book, this is a book of the Palestinian people. 59 young writers from Gaza who contributed in this book, and they deserve their voices to be out there. Yeah. One of the writers who wrote one of these stories is my brother Mahmoud, who was 25 years old when Israel killed him. And people like Mahmoud, people like Yusuf Dawaz, people like Muhammad Hammo, who were killed in this genocide, they deserve their stories to be out there. They deserve to be read. And this is the least you can do to the Palestinian people, is to read their stories. is to immortalize them in your bookshelves, in your libraries, in your mind. Read the Palestinian stories. And now it's Christmas, so gift it to your friends. Put it in your bookshelves like Asa and Ali. This is the least what the Palestinians deserve. It's the least you can do. Thank you, Ali.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. I second every word of that. And we're so grateful to you for all your work. And just to encourage people again to check out the We Are Not Numbers website. Also, of course, we are very proud that many We Are Not Numbers writers are also featured at the Electronic Intifada, like that recent piece that Nora shared by 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜. She is one, and there are many others as well. And of course, the fantastic conversations you're having regularly at Palestine Deep Dive, easy to find, just search for Palestine Deep Dive. We will continue watching. Ahmed will continue learning from you, and we hope to have you back in 2026 to speak with us. And we hope and pray for better news, for a better future for everyone in Gaza and Palestine. And in the meantime, stay strong, keep up the amazing work you and your colleagues are doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me again.
Thanks, Ahmed.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Our pleasure. Oh, so good. It's always so lovely to hear from him. And yeah, that book again, Ali, give the email address again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So questions at electronicintifada.net. Send us your name and address. We'll include you in the draw. Or if you go to electronicintifada.net and click donate now and make a gift of any amount, you will be automatically included. Just make sure to give us a mailing address when you do that. And we'll do our best to include as many places in the world that we can reach. You know, sometimes it's hard or prohibited to mail things to certain places, but to the extent we can, we want to make this open to everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, we have a very special guest coming up in a few minutes, but let's take some more questions before we get to them. Let's see here. This one is from Glisa Bumble. Question, is there another country where your religion gives automatic entitlement to citizenship? I don't actually know the answer to this.
No, I don't believe there is. And of course, I think the question is, of course, pointing to Israel. But no, there isn't, because Israel claims to be a Jewish state. And therefore, anyone it recognizes Jewish can claim citizenship. And Israel says, well, there are other countries that declare themselves Islamic states or Muslim states. And that's true, but none of them automatically give citizenship to any Muslim, as far as I know. The only exception, I would think, is ISIS, the so-called caliphate, which was bringing settlers from China, from from various countries, and settling them in the homes of Syrians who were forced to leave their homes, and claiming that anyone could come. So I mean, this is why the parallel between Israel and ISIS, another reason why I think it's so apt, is because there is this ideological similarity. And the other thing I'll say is that Zionists try to justify Israel's racist so-called law of return, which grants citizenship to anyone it recognizes Jewish. They say, well, Ireland has a similar law, because any person with one Irish grandparent is entitled to Irish citizenship. That's true, but that is nothing like Israel's racist law of return, because the Irish law is any grandparent, not any Catholic grandparent, but any grandparent. So whether the grandparent is of long-time Irish extraction, whether they are Scots-Irish, whether they are Protestant, whether they're Catholic, whether they're Muslim, the same law applies to everyone. So no parallel whatsoever. Israel is unique in that type of racism. And also, while it gives citizenship to any person it recognizes as Jewish from anywhere in the world, there is no automatic, that's not true for Palestinian citizens of Israel. Like, their relatives can't even emigrate back into the country. So unique in its racism in that sense.
Let's go to another. This is from Stephanie. Can you discuss the recent statement published by the resistance regarding October 7th? John, I know that you had read at least some or all of it. What is this new statement? What does it say?
Yeah, so Hamas, it wasn't the resistance that published it. It was Hamas, the political movement. It's called Our Narrative, and it's number 2 because around this time last year, they published their narrative of October 7th, and it was the first document was a bit more polished, I think, than this second one. And the second one didn't really introduce anything new, but a couple of the key ideas that it had in there that people ignore are that Hamas and the resistance are willing to be subjected to an internal or to an investigation about the claims of atrocities on October 7th, and that they are willing to, have those aired in a court in a fair, a free and fair setting. And that's, of course, like the exact opposite of what the Israelis are willing to ever do. But it also says a lot about how they feel, how confident they feel that the atrocity propaganda doesn't represent the operation that happened that day. And so they reiterated that position in our narrative number 2. But I would just say the document is written outside of Gaza. It's written by the political leadership in exile. It's not written by the resistance inside Gaza. And I think some of those differences show up in that document.
What do you think will be the next steps for that? Like, what happens next? Is it, I know that there were, for example, elections in the Politburo of Hamas leadership just in the last day, I think. Where does that document fit into kind of the next steps for the governance and for the resistance?
I don't think it has any impact on the going forward. I think it's a way of looking back. It talks about the reasons for the operation on October 7th. It talks about the political support for that operation. It talks about being open to a fair hearing on that they're allowed to defend themselves in, so presumably a court to go over those allegations from October 7th. I'm not sure that it has much in it that points the way forward, although there are Politburo elections in Hamas, both because the Politburo in Gaza has been virtually entirely wiped out, and the two key figures. I think there's another question on this as well. Khalil al-Hayya, who is the leader from Gaza, who was close to Sinwar, close to the Qassam brigades. And he left Gaza in order to take up the position abroad. And he has been the key negotiator for, for the 800 days of negotiations that essentially, these were negotiations were going on constantly. He was the target of the assassination in Doha. Yeah. And the other person running against him is Khalid Mashal, who is much more of I'd say a diplomat. He's been a Hamas diplomat for a long time. And he is not as close to the Qassam brigades in Gaza. And I think that's going to be an obstacle to his candidacy. I think that the popular support on the ground in Gaza is necessary. for that leadership. And I think, there's sort of backstories to that. Like Khalid Mashal was, he split from Syria and Iran during the Syrian civil war. And that didn't go over. That wasn't a position that was supported by the Qassam brigades on the ground. And it's just always important, as I've done through the resistance reports for the last 2 years, to understand that the movement, the Hamas movement, is rooted in the Qassam brigades. The fighters, they determine the popularity of these politicians that will be running.
Okay, good to know. Thank you for that. We have a bunch more questions. Let's do one or two before we go to our next little segment. Let's see here. How about Tamara? Do we have a question? Let's see. Well, Ali, here we go. Ian 1000 says, what can ordinary people do to help the people of Gaza? Is donating to humanitarian organizations sufficient? That's a big question.
It's a big question, and the answer is probably nothing we're doing is sufficient, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't keep doing it. So all of these things are important, certainly giving to humanitarian organizations, but that can't be a substitute for political action and mobilization. This is not an earthquake or a natural disaster. This is a human-made genocide. And so I think the challenge for all of us is how to keep mobilized, how to keep engaged, how to keep fatigue from setting in, but we really have to. And I mean, there are things that people have been doing for years as kind of a sustained form of action. I think of the Friday action hour that is hosted by the American Friends Service Committee. Many of our viewers and listeners take part in that every week. The American Friends Service Committee program, Gaza and Middle East program, you can find that on their website, where they they have a live show every Friday, similar to ours, but where they actually take an action together, whether it's calling a member of Congress or whatever else it might be. And the other thing we've talked about previously on the show is the apartheid-free communities. Now, I heard the other day from one of the organizers that there are now almost, I think it was 1,000 apartheid-free communities around the world. This is something we should come back and revisit in 2026. But that's another sustained way that people are keeping Palestine and Gaza front and center in their communities. It's a way to get it into your town council, your city council, into your local media. So there are all sorts of ways that for sustained protest, sustained action, as well as boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaigns, which are very important, that are more than going out and protesting in the streets, which is important. Visibility, we've talked about this, is very important, but I think it's very important also to channel our energy into activism that keeps us engaged over the long term and brings more people in and broadens the understanding. There was the recent victory in Somerville, Massachusetts, where the city there voted to support, to take solidarity actions with Palestine. So those things are also sustaining because you are doing it with other people. And that's very empowering as well, because if we're all, I know I hear this from many people, and I think we all feel it, that people feel alone with their pain and their anger and their rage over what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Gaza. And so engaging in these sorts of things with others is nourishing and is strengthening for us individually, and of course is collectively very important.
Well said. Ali, what do you understand as Jared Kushner's role in current peace talks, if such a thing as peace talks exist?
Well, that's from Dennis Bernstein. Is that the Dennis Bernstein?
Oh, it could be.
Yeah.
Hi,
Well,
DB.
if it's a Dennis Bernstein, welcome, Dennis. We're happy to have you. If it's the Dennis Bernstein from Pacifica Radio, Dennis, we are equally happy to have you watching, and we're very grateful for all the work that you do. And so we send our greetings to each and every Dennis Bernstein out there. So this is a great question. Actually, rather than listen to me, why don't we get an answer from none other than President Donald Trump? And Tamara, I'm going to ask you to cue up clip number 2. And this is from the Trump Netanyahu press conference held at Mar-a-Lago yesterday after Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met for talks. I'll have more to say about that, but let's start with this.
I'd like to know if you and the Prime Minister talked about having Israel pull back its troops before Hamas fully disarms. I know that's been an issue. Did you push for that today?
Well, we talked about Hamas and we talked about disarmament, and they're going to be given a very short period of time to disarm, and we'll see how that works out. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be in charge of that from our side, but if they don't disarm as they agreed to do, they agreed to it, and then they'll be held to pay for them. And we don't want that. We're not looking for that. But they have to disarm within a fairly short period of time.
Was Israel withdrawing its forces?
Well, that's a separate subject. We'll talk about that.
So Jared Kushner, according to the president, along with Steve Witkoff, are in charge of the whole kit and caboodle. They're in charge of disarmament of Hamas. So yes, apparently they're very involved. But the question is, do they have a plan? Or this is the question I'm adding. And I think we can do one more clip from President Trump about what happens if Hamas, or the resistance in Gaza, does not listen to Jared Kushner and agree to disarm. And so let us look at clip. Tamara, if you can cue up clip number 3, because this is important.
If you don't see Hamas disarm in that short amount of time that you're giving them, can you tell us what the next steps would be?
It'll be horrible for them. Horrible.
Okay.
It's going to be really, really bad for them. And I don't want that to happen. But they made an agreement that they were going to disarm. And you couldn't blame Israel. By the way, we have other countries that will come in and do it. They said, let us do it for you if they don't. Countries that were with them wanted the deal to be made, agreed that they would disarm. And now if they say they're going to disarm, that's fine. If they say they're not going to disarm, those same countries will go and wipe them out. They don't even need Israel. You know, we have many countries, 59 countries that are in agreement. This is a real peace in the Middle East. And Hamas is a small part of it, but it's still a part of it. But we have 59 countries that signed on, big countries, countries that are outside of the Middle East, as you know the Middle East. They want to go in and wipe out Hamas. They don't want Israel. They don't need Israel. They want to do it because it's the right thing to do. Because they were for the deal based on
I think we can stop there. You know,
So
those
many
clips,
lies in one.
Somebody just on
those
top of
clips,
another. Yeah.
I have to say, those clips always seem shorter when I pick them. And then when I'm listening to them live, I'm like, my goodness, is he ever going to shut up? But
He
The
sounds
resistance
unwell.
categorically did not
They
agree
never
to
did.
disarm.
and
That
nor
is-
did any country say, let us go in and disarm
Yeah,
them. They
that
all
Let
was-
alone
said the opposite.
59 of
Yeah.
them? What is he
Yeah.
talking about?
So that's just to say, Jared Kushner is in charge of the plan, and there is no plan.
But he's in total control of the plan. For Dennis's original question, he is in full control. Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff have been given the portfolio. They do not have a massive team around them of foreign service veterans, professionals. It's just the two of them, and they're doing it with their cell phones. There's a long interview with them on 60 Minutes from a couple months ago. And they explained in detail how they got to this plan. And it was cell phone calls to their Gulf buddies, Gulf with an O and Gulf with a U, Gulf buddies and business partners. And that's how the deal was made. It was made through direct phone calls. There's no apparatus or mechanism for how to follow through on it. The Trump 20 points was not negotiated on. There were only the top 3 of them were negotiated on, which was to end the war, to get aid in, and to have the first stage of Israel's withdrawal. The rest are, the Palestinian resistance says, are Palestinian national movement issues. They're not issues that Hamas or the Qassam brigades can answer or handle on their own. They have to be a decision made by the Palestinian people. And other than that, that they will disarm when there's a Palestinian state and the weapons of the resistance become part of the national army.
Right. Conveniently left out of the context by the man and Kushner. And
but he doesn't sound like he's all there, to be honest with you.
Well,
not in that way.
Was he ever?
But yeah, I did watch the whole press conference. I've got some more clips that we may or may not get to. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, that was the key thing I took away. You know, in the whole press conference, there's also another question in there about phase 2, like when will phase 2 of the plan? And Trump has nothing to say. He doesn't mention the International Stabilization Force. He doesn't mention the Board of Peace. He doesn't say, oh, you know, we're going to reveal the Board of Peace soon, or we're getting ready to. They're in charge, but they have no plan. And that's the scary thing, because the Israelis are fully taking advantage of that to keep Gaza in this situation. Should we do another clip on this, or do you want to?
Only if it pushes the narrative forward.
It does, because I think it really addresses sort of the danger of just the status quo staying in place unless we can push it in a different direction. All
right, let's do it.
We could do, let's do clip 4. Clip 4.
Yes. Mr. President, are you concerned that Israel is not moving quickly enough to phase 2 of the peace plan?
Well, I'm not concerned about anything that Israel's doing. I'm concerned about what other people are doing or maybe aren't doing. But I'm not concerned. They've lived up to the plan. They're strong. They're solid. And sometimes they don't understand when somebody violates something that you want to give them a second chance. Well, we'll give them a couple of second chances. But no, Israel's lived up to the plan 100%. Don't forget, we made the plan possible by taking out Iran. And speaking of Iran, I hope they're not trying to build up again, because if they are, we're going to have no choice but very quickly to eradicate that buildup. So I hope Iran is not trying to build up, as I've been reading that they're building up.
Tamar, you can pause it there. Actually, that I got the wrong clip, but there's a clip. I mean, that's an interesting clip in itself, because you can see there's kind of a double edge to what he's saying. He's saying 100 Israel doing 100%, but he said, you know, they sometimes don't get that when someone makes a mistake, you have to give them a second chance. So what he's also saying there is that Israel is looking for excuses to pull the trigger more than he thinks they should. In other words, they're looking for excuses to sabotage the deal, is what I hear Trump saying. But on the other hand, I don't hear him saying that he's willing to really put any pressure on Israel. And in the clip that I was going to show, he talks about how we're doing so much to help Gaza and Israel is doing so much to help Gaza, when, as we've just discussed, the reality is that less than a fifth of the minimum number of trucks needed is actually getting into Gaza. Nora, I understand we may have a guest.
I think we do. Should we bring on our guest and
Sure,
then go
let's
back
do it.
to? Okay, who is our guest? Oh my God!
Oh my
Look
goodness!
who it is!
What a surprise!
Well, it is a surprise, probably. Well, it's with Jon and Ace at this time.
Yep, we're all here. The gang's all here. Hi, Abubaker. How are you?
I think we should. Well, I'm really good, thank you. And what a pleasure to be here again with all of you. And well, probably me and Jon should talk about the resistance and leave it to this point.
So you think the rest
you don't
of
want to
us
talk
should
to us, huh?
leave
Nice.
and just leave you in charge?
We love you too.
Just leave it for us.
Yeah. Well, Abubaker, it's great to see you, and you have been busy with your studies, which is very important, and we're very happy that you are focusing on your studies. That's fantastic. But you're also continuing to do your journalism work. You've done a couple of really powerful stories for the Electronic Intifada recently. In fact, we talked about one of them on the last show that we can probably pull up, and that one was about the Committee to Protect Journalists. Why don't you just tell us very quickly, again, we did talk about that in the previous show. Why don't you just tell us very quickly what that story was about?
Well, first and foremost, I think since day one I've been following the CPJ, and honestly, I was really fed up with everything the CPJ has been doing, especially from Jody Jansberg. And it was clear because they were always kind of functioning as a hub for Israel's claims, and saying after the killing of any of the journalists in Gaza, which has happened very frequently since day one, that Israel claims that they were operating for Hamas, or they were mouthpieces for Hamas or something like this. And then Judy would say, or would push for such, for an investigation, basically, of such claims, which was obviously wrong. And it was clear that journalists in Gaza, either it was me when I was in Gaza or any other of the journalists now on the ground, that we didn't have time to do anything except totally focusing on reporting the news and reporting the events which were happening every single second of the day, right? And then Jody was very clear that, well, our priority, that's my belief, our priority, that their priority was never Palestine, that we are committed to protect journalists except for Palestine. So one day this group of whistleblowers, they contacted me, and I was really surprised, and they told me that there are things that people are not aware of, and people are simply kind of deceived by Judy Jansberg and what she's saying. But here is the memo, and here's what she's doing, and here's what happened, and this man or this former staffer has been fired by the committee for showing strong positions on Palestine and what is happening in Gaza. And honestly, people shouldn't really be kind of shocked about it, because that's an organization that works in the United States. That's an organization that works, under a lot of pressure. And it's clear, pro-Israeli donors, they've donated over $250,000. I don't know if she claims impartiality and objectivity. I don't think there is any sense of impartiality, objectivity left when we're talking about pro-Israeli donors doing this.
And what you show in the article is how they've been very careful with the language of being very careful not to call what's happening in Gaza genocide, and so it's a really good, really carefully researched article. So well done, Abubaker, for the great journalism. Abubaker, we've been talking, we had Ahmed Alnaouq on a little bit earlier, and Nora gave us the news. The situation in Gaza, what are you hearing from friends and family? What's their mood? What's their reality? What can you tell us?
I honestly always receive pleas from people who live in utterly disastrous conditions. I think one of the things that people are always dreaming of is to find the ceiling, which is one of the things that keeps striking me over themselves, because they're always soaked with water, especially these days. And I don't like talking about this, but honestly, I'm trying my best, my very best, because I'd like to be sincere in whatever I do and help people with. And a lot of people, they are really looking for an apartment, the wreckage of one of the still precarious houses in Gaza that have been destroyed by Israel, that have been damaged by the Israeli military, or they're trying to find kind of a really good tent, a well-fortified tent that would protect them from the cold. But at the same time, what I was shocked by was that the neighbors who are still there and whom I was meeting when I was in Gaza and sometimes interviewing, they still have the same clothes on their bodies. That this hasn't changed. And I left Gaza 8 months ago, and I witnessed that winter a year ago, right, in Gaza. But they still have the same set of clothes on their bodies, and that can tell you everything about it. Now, in terms of food, I'm really glad that people are eating much more. They have access, things are more affordable. But how things are more affordable, this is not for the entire population, because I know a lot of families that don't have access to work, they are unemployed. And, the unemployment rates already in Gaza because of the genocide, it has unbelievably skyrocketed. And a lot of people, they depend on mutual aid organizations, they depend on humanitarian organizations. And again, and I want to reiterate this, and a lot of people, the vast majority of people in the Strip, they do not trust international organizations for what they have done, for what they have been standing for since day one. And Dr. Ali, you tweeted, and I think I opened the live stream earlier, you talked about UNRWA, you talked about the World Food Program, right? And you're talking about these organizations. But we have to confront them with what they're doing. They are capable, Dr. Ali, believe me or not, they're capable of pressuring the Israelis to reopen the borders and let them in. But that's not their main interest. And that has been reported in the new humanitarian piece that was revealed a few months ago, when the head of the OCHA in Gaza said, and didn't pressure the Israelis enough, according to the whistleblowers from the OCHA. And they said, the head said that she instead pressured to get stray dogs food in, and that can tell you everything about it. And from what I've seen, just one final point on that, from what I've seen in Gaza, I can tell you their priority for the vast majority of them is not the people of Gaza. Their priority is fame and money. That's what it can tell you. That's why people are still suffering. They can pressure the Israeli military more. They can pressure the Kurds. They can do more, but they're just giving people mere platitudes. That's why the suffering continues, and tents are not available for loads and loads of families who are still stranded in Gaza, and they are really soaked with water. And it's sad and it's tragic that we are having more children, people dying from hypothermia. I mean, we're living in 2025, tomorrow 2026, and we are in the most sophisticated era of the entire world since its establishment, but we're still having people dying from cold, which is absolutely devastating.
Oh, Ali, you're muted.
I think, Abubaker, you were talking about this article from the New Humanitarian, which is very critical of how some UN officials were downplaying the criticisms. Yeah, well, downplaying, particularly at the time the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was still in existence, and they were saying, well, maybe we should stop criticizing it so much and try and get along with it. So there were some leaked memos there. You're talking about that. The reality now, though, is that that those UN agencies are the only ones that are getting anything in substantial quantities, even though it's far short of what is needed. And as we said earlier, people should always do their due diligence, ask organizations what they're doing, look for current updates about their work in Gaza and so on, so that if they want to support organizations, they can find the ones who are being effective, with the understanding that all of this is a fraction of what's needed. And
but it's also important to tell him, sorry to cut you off on this point, but it's also important to note, and from speaking to people who have worked within these organizations since day one, either foreigners or from the people of Gaza, it is important to mention to the people who are hearing me at the moment, and with the examples and the evidence that I do have and the witnesses, that the people of Gaza who are appointed within these organizations, including UNRWA, the WFP and others, are taking far, far, far less salaries than the foreigners who are coming from outside just for a week to do a mission inside Gaza. And one example is one woman I was talking to, she was offered $500 from a UK-based humanitarian organization per week for 6 days work, and every day is more than 8 hours work. That is unimaginable. Meanwhile, the operators of the organizations who work from outside, they take more than over $5,000 around this. That is important to mention. That is the corruption that I try to do.
And that's also sort of structural within the so-called humanitarian aid system worldwide. That's not just Gaza, but certainly is even more exacerbated in Gaza right now. Abubaker, we have a question for you and a video we want to show.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna talk about something. So the question is, what has happened to the original yellow rose? Before you answer that, let's show this video, and then you can talk about the yellow rose.
We see hope. This is our yellow rose. It is, in fact, the best thing we have at the moment, because we see hope through it. Despite destruction, despite the truly unbearable circumstances we are living under at the moment, we still seek out hope. We still see hope. We are sending here the message of made, the message of everyone from Gaza, especially in my area, that we want you to be with us. We want you to have our back always and every time, because we see hope in you. We are sending, and Abubaker is sending a message of love, a message of hope to every one of you from Center Gaza and Gary.
So that's, you grew that yellow rose in Gaza. We could hear the drones buzzing in the background in that video. That was, remind me, that was early 2024?
I think it's late 2024.
Late 2024. When you watch that, what feelings and memories does it bring up for you?
Well, it's a roller coaster of emotions, I think. And openly speaking now, since you mentioned home, I think I've lost a lot since leaving Gaza. I've really, really lost a lot. And I'm someone so much connected with my family, especially my parents. And I'm yearning to get back and see them, to be honest, and be with them. I have so much love for them and everyone around me. It's really heartbreaking, but I know I need to stick stronger and do whatever I can from here, and hopefully can see them back. But it also gives me the fact, or gives me the sense that I also need to continue. I mean, as I saw hope in Gaza amid all that devastation, despair, and death, I can also see hope here. And I need to continue no matter what. So I really miss everything back home. I mean, the beauty of this very, very stunning yellow rose, the beauty of the other plants, green plants in the courtyard of my house, of our house back home. The people in Deir el-Balah, I mean, Deir el-Balah especially, the stunning, the very fascinating, stupendous palm trees. I mean, the sunrise, what a terrible country Ireland is in terms of sunrises.
We have a lot of people from Ireland watching.
I'm really sorry, but it's I don't know what to say, but
doesn't compare to a Mediterranean sunrise.
I mean,
sure.
it's
That's objective.
Mediterranean. Yeah. It's all about. I think everything in Gaza, when you taste it, when you touch it, it gives you a different sense. Believe me, Nora, when you go back, hopefully when you go to Gaza one day, and you would see that there's a sense of love planted in everything that you really touch or see or witness or whatever you do with it in Gaza. Here, I don't see it, to be honest, at all. So whether the yellow rose or anything, I mean, a very, very, very tragic sense of nostalgia, but we still have to go on no matter what.
But you know that we didn't know that was what was going to happen, but that yellow rose that you grew and you showed and you shared really did inspire a lot of people, and it became a symbol.
I can see it
became a symbol that we put on our Electronic Intifada.
The highest honor.
Sticker, yeah.
I mean, everyone is happy about it. I've received loads of messages about it.
Yeah. So that was inspired by you and by your message. And so what we're going to do is, lots of people have got their stickers, but many more people want them, I'm sure. We don't sell them. That's not how you can get them, but we are going to give away Tamara, if you can make me big, put me yes. So we have this is my sticker board from last year with every Electronic Intifada sticker on it that we've ever produced, that we do annually, and I'm going to add now number 12, the yellow rose.
Oh my God.
There we go. So it's now one of the official Electronic Intifada stickers. And we're going to give away some sets of all 12 collector's items. I even hear that these are in archives and museums, the Electronic Intifada stickers, including the wonderful sticker we had last year commemorating Dr. 𝐓𝐡𝐞. I think that's really one of my favorites, of course, along with the yellow rose. And so it'll be just like for the book. If you we'll try to do at least 10 sets, but we'll do more, but not fewer than 10. Maybe up to 20 sets of every one of these stickers together. So if
plus a special one.
Oh,
plus
do you want to show that? We're gonna, yeah.
I've been
right.
making stickers as well.
Show me
this
that.
one is designed and printed by Nora. And so that's not.
What brings the orange with the olives and the chilies?
Well, it's all, the oranges from Jaffa, the olives from everywhere, and the chilies from Gaza. Filfil.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, that's really beautiful. and in green, which is a symbol of those people.
And yellow for the yellow rose in the background.
And green for the resistance.
That's right. Well.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
So that's an official Nora sticker. It's not an official EI sticker, but we're going to add it.
It should be.
To the set. It should be. No, it totally should be. And so
it'll be part of the set.
Yeah, and I see someone in the comments saying strawberries in Gaza. We actually had a sticker a few years ago. Mm-hmm. You can see it here, that has strawberries and chilies on it, and a wheat farmer in Gaza. So these are this sticker from a few years ago symbolized the agriculture in Gaza that is picked up there. So how we're going to do this exactly like with the We Are Not Numbers book. In fact, I think we'll pick people from the same pool. So you'll either get stickers or you'll get the book. And so if you make a donation today, go to electronicintifada.net, hit donate now, or you'll find links in the description of the YouTube video. You'll automatically be entered as long as we have a mailing address we can use. Again, we will try to be as inclusive as we can of the whole world, provided that we're able to mail to you. And or if you don't want to make a donation, that's totally fine. It's not a requirement. Just send your name and address to us at questions@electronicintifada.net, and we will include you in the draw for a collector's set of the Electronic Intifada stickers. They won't come mounted on this beautiful piece of board, because that would be hard to mail, but you could do something like that and frame them or give them away or just hold on to them. And hopefully they're a memento and a way for us to say thank you to you. What do you think, Abubaker? Do you like the sticker?
I mean, I'm speechless. I'm really speechless and never expected that, but what an honor. It's been 2 years since knowing you, and I can say, and I will say this, what an honor to be part of your team. And there's no such honor that I've had in my life, to be honest. Everything about it. I mean, sometimes people get short of words, but I've always been short of words when it comes to describing my sensations being with you and talking to you and writing for you. And I mean, no words, to be honest.
It's really our honor, Abubaker. Yeah. You've made a huge impact despite all that you have lived through and your family has lived through, and the losses of dear loved ones in your family and your friends. I know that you've lost very dear, close friends in this genocide, as has pretty much everyone in Gaza. You've continued to advocate, to speak out, to do really brilliant journalism, and to study and advance your education, which is, I'm saying in public, very, very important to keep doing. So, you know, you are doing a lot of things and carrying a lot of weight, and we're very proud of you for doing that.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate it.
I don't know if we had any other questions for Abubaker, or any from us here that we want to ask. Maybe you have questions.
Do you have questions for us?
Maybe you have a question for us.
For you?
Yeah, now's your chance.
I mean, that's good. Well, it's good that you've gave me the platform. It's fine to grill people.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
It's fine to grill people.
Yeah. Go ahead. We reserve the right to say no comment, depending on what the question is.
We could pretend we didn't hear.
Yeah, sorry. No, I don't know what you just said.
I think one question I would like to ask, starting with Jon, is a lot of people are watching your resistance reports, and I've watched some of them. And I'm not sure if you know this, but even people in the Arab world, they're watching your reports, which I was really surprised about when I heard it the first time. But you mentioned a lot of the times that, you know, about the pushes that the resistance has carried out against Israeli troops in Gaza. But what do you think of, because I've heard to the Arabic people who are like analyzing the resistance, but honestly, I'm not complimenting you, you know me, I'm a straightforward person. If a man is terrible, I'd say he's terrible. But I'm saying is, like, what does make you analyze things quite differently? Probably because you're from I'm not sure, like, what is the basis that people, because I'm asked the question sometimes, what is the basis that you are choosing or leaning on when it comes to your resistance reports? Because they are really, really pinpoint.
Oh, I appreciate hearing that. Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of this is just, it came from experiencing it. I covered the Second Intifada in Gaza and in Jenin. I lived in the years after the Intifada for the disengagement. I was there for that era, and the Fatah Hamas fighting. And I think that's, the biggest asset that I have, that I was there. I watched it be built up. I watched 𝐄𝐿 grow as a movement, as a military on the ground. And so I feel like it's that clarity allows me to put the pieces in place. I think it really does come down to that experience, which of course pales in comparison to the experience of people in Gaza. But when I was there, it was my job to go and cover those kinds of things. So I went out with the fighters in the middle of the night when they were training. I went out with the units that were firing rockets. I watched that process over a number of years. But I mean, my real education was the kids, like the way the kids interacted with the resistance, the way the kids were always, throwing stones at tanks, and the authenticity of that as a method of struggle. I think when this all came about in October, I think it just was a lot of pieces coming together that I had been doing for a long time, and it allowed, maybe a different take on what I was seeing.
You're reluctant doing it, given the fact that you're the only one in the West probably analyzing the resistance support. I mean, did you feel reluctant because of the pressure, the lobby groups, and everyone around you?
Did I feel pressure?
Yeah, like
no question. I felt and do feel like it was a really important responsibility to do. It was something that I knew how to do, and then the way in which the resistance, the military media, the way that apparatus functioned, they gave us the material to show the world. And so I felt like that it was a duty to show that footage, because we never really had a situation where we had such raw, pure, authentic like frontline view. It felt like you were in the battle with the fighters, and that just brought a sense of just really, it's never happened like that before. There's been media on the front lines, but to get the media directly from the resistance. And when I was in Gaza, I was trying to communicate with the resistance. I was trying to understand what was going on to report it. But this went to the next level, because this was them putting together the package and sharing it, and wanting it to be seen. That was the whole point. And I had just a very strong, I felt like a duty, responsibility to do that, because I could do it.
I mean, what an honor. And just then a quick question to Asa. Asa, I really want to understand this point, given the fact that you're in London and we've met before there. I mean, do you think, because right now, according to the polls in Palestine, the reality is that the people who choose Hamas in the West Bank and in Gaza, they have trust in Hamas as a legitimate governing body of the Gaza Strip. That I can tell you from what I'm hearing, even from people, that this will be the case, right? I'm talking about now the political wing, the governing body. I'm not talking about the resistance, right? Now, the politics in the UK is atrocious. Everybody can agree on that. But when we are talking about these new generations, like the new party, like Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn and Zach Belinsky, I'm not sure if I can pronounce his name correctly, in the Green Party, and these people are pro-Palestine, we agree on that. But they are in hand with Palestinian Authority, which is obviously repulsive. But do you think they are going to change things on the ground for the people of Gaza, or trying to tell the people, well, you have to choose the PA? And do you think they are going to give legitimacy to the armed resistance in Gaza? Do you think there will be a future in British politics for Palestine as Palestinians want to see it?
Well, that's a really good question, actually, Abubaker. You've made quite an incisive point there. Like, what you've noticed about even the solidarity movement, the Palestine solidarity movement in Britain, not just the politicians, but the wider solidarity movement, in terms of the institutional apparatus, let's say, the more NGO-oriented organizations are quite fully in bed with the Palestinian Authority. And even for many years, the left wing of the Labour Party, I mean, I don't think we can talk about a left wing of the Labour Party anymore. But for some years before Jeremy Corbyn became leader, there was a kind of tolerated left within the Labour Party. Those people who express solidarity with Palestinians in those kinds of political parties, their main demand was for a Palestinian state. And, you know, what that meant in practice was recognizing the Palestinian Authority, regardless of the actual facts of the institution of the Palestinian Authority. What was it founded for? What does it actually do in reality? And what is its terms of reference, if you will? What is the basis for its existence? Well, if you look at why it was established to transform the PLO, which was previously the Liberation Organization of the Palestinian people, to transform that into a organization which collaborates with the Israeli military occupation in order to essentially to neutralize it, and that was the Palestinian Authority. And we've, unfortunately, I think this is a wider institutional problem on the British left, such as it is, that there is a real weakness there, that people, if they have any kind of critique of the Palestinian Authority, they see it as maybe it's too weak. They see it as that it is not doing its job. But actually, it is doing its job, which is to collaborate with Israel, to collaborate with the Israeli occupation. So, you know, until we can kind of get over that, we're going to continue to have these problems, unfortunately. So, in answer to the question, no, I don't really see that changing, unfortunately.
So you don't think Hamas will have any legitimacy in British politics in the near future?
Well, there was a period when the Palestinian Authority was first, when Hamas was first elected to lead the Palestinian Authority. If you remember back in 2006,
yeah, I do.
There was a period on the. To be fair, there was a period where some on the British left did say, including, it has to be said, Jeremy Corbyn, did say, well, this is the legitimate, the legitimately elected leadership of the Palestinian Authority, and therefore the British government should negotiate with them. And so there was kind of period there where that happened. Since then, the political wing of Hamas has been outlawed by the British government. So, you know, that kind of engagement is unlikely to be repeated, I think. But, you know, there's certainly no reason why these kind of new left figures like Zara Sultana and Zach Polanski couldn't try and change that and try and argue for engagement. You know, the position Jeremy Corbyn always had was that, you know, the British government negotiated with the IRA during the so-called Troubles in the north of Ireland, and so it should also negotiate with Hamas. So, you know, could we see that again? It's possible. That it is possible. But in terms of the support for the, you know, actually going deeper in that critique and recognizing the reality of what the Palestinian Authority is. Unfortunately, I don't see any signs of that at the moment.
And that's a phenomenon across the political West, let's say, the criminalization of any resistance. And Professor Joseph Massad at Columbia University has made the point repeatedly in various articles that in the West, you are allowed, particularly liberal institutions like big NGOs and universities and so on, you're allowed to sympathize with the Palestinians as victims, but not to support them as a people that is fighting for its liberation. That is literally criminalized. And actually, we're going to talk more about that particular case of Tony Greenstein a bit later. But maybe just a very slightly lighter topic, Abubaker. There were a few questions for you. First of all, there was a comment from I'm a Professional One saying, I look at my yellow rose every day. It makes me happy, sometimes sad, which I thought was beautiful. But there were a few hard-hitting questions for you, Abubaker.
Hard-hitting.
Ready?
Okay.
Hard-hitting, yeah. Okay. This one I suspect is was from Ireland, from Pamela Earle. Abubaker, do you like Irish soda bread?
What is it? Soda bread.
Irish soda bread. That's the very brown Irish bread.
Well, I've never heard of it, and I've never seen it.
All right. So that's the answer. It's delicious, by the way. I love Irish soda bread. In fact, I baked some yesterday. I'll tell you that, with
lots of butter,
coarse whole wheat flour from Ireland. Okay. Are you playing football?
Well, I'm not playing professionally. I was offered the chance, but you know.
Are you getting out and kicking a ball around?
No. Sometimes, like one time, I was in college, and one man who seemed to be very skilled. He had overtrust in himself, and he said, "Well, let's play." And I beat him 2-0 very easily. So
yes,
nice.
And you made me play with you when I was in Ireland, and then
I remember
you were very critical afterwards. So I'll never forget that. And are you eating junk food is another question.
Well, I'm not going to restaurants to eat junk food in the first place because I hate restaurants. I'm an anti-restaurant pizza.
Okay. So there we have some of the hard-hitting questions.
I think you've seen it when you came to visit me.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, not all junk food comes from restaurants. I'll say, and I won't say more than that. But good. So, all right. So you got to try Irish soda bread. Very healthy and very delicious.
I saw a question, what do I like, regardless of the weather, about Ireland, right?
There you go.
Other than the weather, what do I like about living in Ireland? I think the people are really sincere with the support for Palestine and really love it. I mean, they're really, really sincere. But I hope people are becoming more vicious in the support. I think I don't have to explain more. But massive disobedience is very interesting.
Oh, I like that
Irish
one.
accent. So, well, probably. I mean, they're saying grant, sorry, and mind yourself. I said, mind yourself is offensive, but they said to me, no, it's unoffensive. It means take care of yourself. These are the words I've heard.
Yeah, it's true. Mind yourself can depending on how it's said, but in Ireland, it's just, take care of yourself. It's a nice thing. But if I think if someone in Britain says, mind yourself, then maybe you better watch out. I don't know. There are these subtleties.
Have you gotten used to being driven or driving on the other side of the road with the other side of the steering wheel is in the wrong place?
The cars are backwards.
The cars are backwards.
I mean, everything here is driving me bonkers, but
you just have to remember to
I'm not trying to be offensive
look right before you look left.
I mean, I think their transportation is something really complicated, and it stems from the capitalistic system. And I would urge, if that would go to the Dublin City Council, that they should make taxis more affordable, and they should make taxis like 4. They would go in. Like in Gaza, we don't have a taxi that would go
service.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
Like 4 would go in, and everybody would contribute to the price of the taxi. I think in all the West, and even in England, it's not the same. And Ireland is unbelievably expensive. I mean, it's unbelievable. He speaks better English than the English. Well, I'm not sure. That's just an insult to Asa. No.
Ace is Welsh.
Asa will tell you he's Welsh. Yeah,
he's Welsh. No, there's no insult there. There's a question. There's a question from Margarex. Margarex, what are you studying and do you like it? Answer if you know.
I mean, no, it's fine. I'm studying. I think journalism, media, or communications. The name of the major. The professors are really great. Barry Finnegan, Barry O'Brien. They're really, 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 really great. I mean, honestly, and you know me, they're even very much better than the professors in Gaza. Yes. They're really, really great.
Good. Yeah. And I suppose that studying a journalism course, Abubaker, you learned journalism by necessity, not by choice. You, as you've always said, you just wanted to be a football commentator or a football journalist.
I was offered the chance as well, but I refused it.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is you became a war correspondent, a genocide correspondent, because that was the reality. Do you find that in your courses and in your classes, you have things to teach people? You're telling people based on your experience about reporting and the reality of journalism. Are they learning from you as well, is my question?
I mean, I think I'm in a position, and since day one, I was trying to avoid as much as I can, because it's sometimes sensitive to talk to people in a way that you're trying to teach them. I think especially there are students like my age. So I never said to them that I was a journalist, except the last week of the course, which was only 2 weeks ago. But I think like I'm reflecting really well on the course, because there are really new things that I've learned from the professors and from the course itself. So I think it's a really great experience, in my opinion, and I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah, way to go.
That's fantastic.
We're so proud of you. And are you growing
It's
wild
not good.
Irish rose?
They're not good. They're not as good as the ones in Palestine, unfortunately. They're not. And that's the problem.
Although there were those lovely ones outside our friend Tony's house.
Yeah, but they still don't smell. They don't smell. No,
they don't smell. Okay, well,
I think I was going to talk about this. I think Dr. Ali has to step down from now on, and me and Nora.
I'm more than ready. I'm ready to retire. I'm ready to put my feet up. So you can. This is your chair, Abubaker. You can
this is
come
a coup.
Take it anytime. It's yours.
It's about the dictatorship.
I'm tired too. Don't I get to retire? No.
No, I'm first.
Yeah, you're first. You're the oldest.
I think Nora is as young as 25-year-old women. I don't believe. When she told me her age, I'm not going to say her age to the public, but when she told me her age, I was really. I thought she was deceiving me, but I'm really surprised.
You're on thin ice now, Abubaker.
I mean, no. But honestly, Nora, like. Everybody loves you, honestly, but even back home, and inspiration, even here in Ireland, a lot of people are talking about you, and so much love here for you in Ireland, and even wherever I go. Like, honestly, this is something that people have to know, that of all the conferences that I've done, and all of my visits to Greece and the UK, even when I went to the UK, Asa, and inside the Parliament, the EI was there. A lot of people would say Abubaker the EI, or Abubaker the EI, Abubaker the EI. But I mean, what an honor! And but a lot of people really love you. Well, all of you, of course, and Nora, you've always been mentioned. So again, I don't think you're as old as you think. So yeah. That's something
very sweet.
Very early. Very early. Very early.
Making me blush. We have a rule against that.
So, Abubaker, what I mean, as we sort of just give us some thoughts before you leave us, in terms of like, what should, a question we get all the time, what should people be doing to keep, people are concerned about Gaza, they're concerned about Palestine, they want to keep it front and center. What are some of the things you're seeing people doing that you think are effective, or that you think we should be doing collectively to keep raising the banner?
I really commend the actions of the Palestine Action prisoners. I really commend their actions. I think people...
You're definitely not going to the UK now, Abubaker, after that.
Well, I'm already... My visa's already expired. So
okay.
That's not a problem. I'm not going to put Asa on the spot. Don't worry, Asa. And I think, yeah, they're really great. I think people, the only thing that I've always been hoping to see people doing, and a lot have been doing, is to ensure that Israel is isolated. That's what they say. I mean, as a Carlson.
So the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, for example.
I mean, I think people have to understand that we don't, as Gazans and Palestinians in Gaza in particular, we don't governments to send us millions of euros in aid and all of it gets stuck on the border. We need governments to be pressured to ensure that they have nothing to do with Israel, to isolate Israel. For example, here in Ireland, you have a scenario that this government has been pressured and called on since day one by the people to stop trading with Israel, to enact Occupy Turkey's bill, and to stop American fighter jets to go through its airspace, but nothing has been effective since day one. And this is more destructive. And as I always say, don't help me endure the pain. Help me end the occupation and free my homeland. That's what we need to understand. I don't want the American government to send me aid. I want the American government to stop aiding Israel. The same for every Western country, the same for every European country. And I like, again, mass civil disobedience is really, really important. And we hope that this will continue. I think people should stick to that, and to ensure that even if the genocide has presumably ended and things are slightly better now, alhamdulillah, it's important that people be pursued until the final day when Palestine is free. That's the moment that not just Palestinians will get benefit from, but also the entire people. I mean, things in the UK are really insane. I mean, the British government is on a leash by the lobby groups, the Jewish lobby groups, and the same everywhere. I've never seen it like this before. So this crackdown has to be stopped, and I really hope that people dismantle the Zionist lobby groups everywhere. I hope so. I really, really hope so.
Yeah. Well said, as always. Abubaker, we're going to hear and see you much more in 2026, we hope. And, we're always so honored to have you on the live stream, but also in our community and, as colleagues at EI. And we're always just so proud of everything that you're doing.
And now, you said that when you go to conferences, Abubaker, people say to you, Abubaker, oh, EI. No, that's not how it works for me.
How does it work?
If I go somewhere, I say EI, they say, oh, you mean Abubaker Abed?
No, that's a hyperbole. That's a hyperbole.
hyperbole. Well, no, it happens. It happens, and we're very proud. We're very proud of the work that you.
I've become a little bit suspicious that there are some triggers that we need to weed out in the Electronic Intifada.
No, well, let's quit while we're ahead. Then. No, we are all on the same team here, and we're very proud to have you on the team, Abubaker. You do outstanding work, and you always keep people in Gaza front and center in everything you do and say. You're always thinking about them, always speaking about them. That's an example for all of us, and we're very grateful. I know that I am speaking on behalf of many people watching and listening when we say we wish you in 2026 all the success in the world with your studies, with your work. We hope that you will be reunited with your parents and your family soon and be able to hug them and kiss them and be with them. We hope for that for all the other students in Ireland, and for all the criticism that we and many of us have for the Irish government. We're grateful that Ireland is a safe and welcoming place for you and other students. And like Nora said, we'll see you more in 2026 for sure. And in the meantime, thank you so much, Abubaker, for joining us today.
Really, thank you. And finally, as the year comes to an end, I really want to say that you're also an inspiration to a lot of people around the world. Again, I'm just reiterating this. I know you've been going on for over 2 years. You're still doing what you're doing. And for the new year, I really hope that you will have more success than the success that you're wishing for me, every one of you. And well, my only hope and my only dream is hopefully that there will be no more pain for the Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank. And I really hope more and more and more that the Palestinians will be united, stronger, more than ever. And thank you for what you're doing. And again, unfortunately, we're not seeing Tamara, not now. And she told me she would appear, but I don't know.
Maybe she'll make an appearance now.
That's up to her. Yeah.
She's like Sherlock Holmes. She needs to be investigated. Listen, roll up your sleeves.
We can't make
You're
her.
like Sherlock Holmes. You're like Sherlock Holmes, the journalist. You're the one who finds out the secrets.
Probably. And thanks very much. And unfortunately, I don't know what to say anymore, but hopefully there will be no more pain. Keep going on, and very much love to every single one who's watching the EI and for supporting it. And she said can she say hi tomorrow?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Come on, say hi tomorrow.
Yes.
Bring her on.
Yeah,
Hi.
there she is.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Mara.
Hi. I just wanted to come and say
She's a
hi.
bit nervous.
Obviously, I'm nervous, Abubaker.
Why?
No, it's a huge honor to produce and direct this show, and for it to be a vehicle for Palestinian voices, including yours, Abubaker. And I'm just really honored to be part of that. And your story and the stories of so many other Palestinians that have had historic moments on this show is precisely why this show exists. And we're all so grateful for your friendship and for your for you being part of our team and being a comrade.
I mean, I'm always a part of your entourage, so don't worry.
Thank you. And it took Abubaker to get Tamara to
See, because I've been pressuring her.
Yeah, so
The comments are going crazy, by the way, tomorrow.
but saying
Well, she's like a rose in the show.
Yeah,
Yes.
and saying what we all feel, which is utmost respect and gratitude for everything Tamara does at the Electronic Intifada, and in making this program possible. A huge amount of work goes into it behind the scenes. that Tamara takes on, and is just completely dedicated, Tamara, to the mission, to getting this information out, to educating as many people, to coordinating with our guests who we have on, and doing it always with such professionalism, with such courtesy, with such thoughtfulness in terms of thinking about what we put into the program. And so we're just, I'm glad to have the opportunity to thank you with everyone here and everyone watching.
We do have the same feeling. She's like Abubaker of the resistance of the EI.
Don't get us in trouble, Abubaker. Someone at YouTube is just waiting to pull the plug.
Thanks very much.
And we still have a very packed show ahead. So
absolutely, I'm really sorry.
No, don't apologize. This is a huge honor for me, and thank you to everyone who shares and listens and watches and reads our work, and everyone at EI is very grateful for everyone who refuses to look away from what's happening in Palestine, and it's an honor to play a very small part of that. But yeah, I just wanted to say hi, but I'm going to return backstage and we'll transition to our next segment.
I think she's really great. Nora has to be careful. Her position is picturesque.
I can't do what Tamara does ever. Like I would have to.
Such a stirrer. He's so bad.
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And, have a great, happy New Year tomorrow, and every single one of you. And
thank you. You too, Abubaker. And see you in 2026.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye. Oh, he's such a menace. I love it.
Yeah, and a good laugh. Good crack, as they say in Ireland.
A good crack.
That's CRAIC.
Right. Amazing. All right. Well, we have some more show coming up, but we wanted to, of course, get a report from Jon.
Just before we do that, because before we go on to Jon, because some people have been asking how they can enter the sticker draw. So if you make a donation at electronicintifada.net, click donate now, or in the links in the description in the YouTube video, you will be automatically entered. You do not have to make a donation. Just send us your name and address to questions@electronicintifada.net, and we'll have the draw for the We Are Not Numbers book signed by Ahmed Alnaouq, and we'll have the draw for the sticker sets, the 12, the collector set of every EI sticker going back 12 years. And depending on how many names and addresses we get, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to try and at least send a rose sticker to everyone. I mean, so we'll try and do that, and we'll at least try to get a rose sticker to everyone. Unless it's millions of, wouldn't it be great if it was millions of people? But we'll do our best to get a sticker to everybody.
Perfect.
So if you haven't received a sticker already and you really want one, send us your name and address, and we'll try and send one to you.
And again, that's questions@electronicintifada.net.
Yeah, to questions@electronicintifada.net.
Excellent. All right. Well, do the honors the last time for 2025, Ali.
Sorry.
The honors.
Sorry. I was looking at the comment. You see, I'm paying attention to many things. Can't always multitask.
You're doing great.
Take it away, Jon.
All right. You are watching and listening to the Electronic Intifada. I am Jon Elmer. This is the Resistance Report for day 816 of Israel's genocide and day 82 since the ceasefire agreement has been signed. Of course, it's been violated now almost 1,000 times. 420 people have been killed, 298 of them in direct gunshot deaths by Israeli soldiers shooting them shooting Palestinians along the yellow line. But yesterday there was news spoken from the new 𝐤𝐿 Brigade spokesperson announcing the deaths of senior commanders, including Abu Ubaidah. And I know many people were wondering about this for a long time. We did not report on this because we didn't have information on it. We wait until the resistance can confirm. But Abu Ubaidah was assassinated back in the summer, and they announced it today. So what you're looking at there is the new spokesperson for the 𝐤𝐿 Brigades. He spoke yesterday, and he spoke about he spoke about something that I remember Rafat talking about just he says that we boast of belonging to Gaza. I remember Rafat used to be so proud of being from 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐿, and when he would tell people where he was from, he was so proud of it. And that's the new spokesperson for the 𝐤𝐿 Brigades began by saying that we boast of belonging to Gaza. He reiterated that October 7th was an explosion in the face of injustice, oppression, and siege that awakened the conscience of the free peoples of the world and exposed Israel as a Nazi occupation with its sadistic crimes and genocide, making it a fugitive from criminal justice. He said that the resistance thwarted all of Israel's plans, from expulsion to concentration camps to the death trap aid program, right through to the promise to resettle, which is, of course, not happening. And we covered all those on the resistance report over these past 2 years, right? People remember the general's plan that was supposed to drive everybody out of North Gaza. Those plans didn't come into effect, and that was because of the resistance and the steadfastness of the people of Gaza. Abu Ubaidah said, we denied Israel's goals to defeat the resistance and the spirit of resistance. Israel failed to return their captives through violence, but required negotiation and prisoner exchange after the shadow unit of the 𝐤𝐿 Brigades protected the captives bravely during the battle. The ceasefire was because of the steadfastness of our people and our fighters who never left their posts. Abu Ubaidah said, our people will defend themselves and will not give up their weapons as long as the occupation remains. They will not surrender, even if they have to fight with their fingernails, he said. And he said, in our fighters trapped in Rafah, you have the best witness and proof of that. He talked about Israel's pillars are shaking and its foundations are eroding, and that is a harbinger of its demise, he said. Justice will prevail, and we will rebuild together what the occupation has destroyed, is what he said to the people of Gaza. Its sons will not drop the banner until victory. And then he said, I have inherited the title of Abu Ubaidah. And that was a significant moment. It also happened with Islamic Jihad. Their spokesperson, Abu Hamza, who was assassinated, was replaced, and they kept the same name. Abu Ubaidah the name Abu Ubaidah comes from an early military figure in Muslim war fighting. He was a companion of the Prophet and a key military commander in early Islam fighting. The first Muslim battle and stacking victories ultimately until he became the chief of the conquest of Mecca. So the roots of the name Abu Ubaidah are deep. Abu Ubaidah participated in the Battle of Uhud, which is the focal point of a number of resistance videos that we've seen where the fighters quoted poems or in other ways alluded to that battle to remain on the mountain of archers. Abu Ubaidah did remain on the mountain of archers after the Muslim forces had fled the attack by Khalid bin Walid's forces. So he did stay on the mountain of archers, and he defended the Prophet while he was up there. So the name and the convention of that has deep roots, and so that's why they will carry on with that name. So that is the first speech from the new spokesman for the 𝐤𝐿 Brigades. We can go to the next slide, and you can see that This is what they were announcing. They were announcing the deaths of Mohammed Sinwar, Abu Ibrahim, who was the chief of staff of the Qassam Brigades, Raed Saad, who I reported on last show, who was the head of military manufacturing, Hakim Al-Isa, Abu Omar, who was the head of the Weapons Support and Combat Services Department, along with Mohammed Shabana, who was the commander of the Rafah Brigade, and then Abu Ubaidah Hudayfa al-Khalut. And he was, of course, more than just a spokesperson. He was the head of the military media apparatus. He was involved in the battle, and we'll see that as we go along in this next few minutes. If we look at the next slide, they did individual posters for each of them. That's Mohammed Sinwar, the brother of Yahya Sinwar, who has a long military history within the Qassam Brigades going back to its earliest days. Abu Ubaidah described him as a man of unique intellect. He was the leader of the Khan Yunis Brigades before becoming operations chief for the Qassam Brigades. And then after the assassination of Mohammed al-Daif, he became the general, the chief of staff for the Qassam Brigades since the summer of 2024, and commanded the battle without any observable impact, which I think is important to note about all of these assassinations, is that these are key leadership figures that were assassinated, but at no point did we notice that in the war that the fighting in any way was indicative of any kind of replacement, chaos or anything of the sort. In fact, there was no way of telling that at all, which I think is a tribute to the organization and to the tribute to the people who are coming up underneath these figures, that they can be replaced and carry on the job, which the Qassam Brigades did fighting in Gaza after Mohammed Sinwar was killed this past summer. The next slide is Mohammed Shabana. He was the Rafah Brigade's commander, and he was killed along with Sinwar in Khan Yunis. When he was killed, 26 civilians were killed along with them, which is the case in all of these assassinations. In fact, in all of the assassinations going back decades of Qassam and Hamas figures, there's always civilian massacres along with that, even though there's an option to not have that be the case. So Mohammed Shabana was an important position. He was very close to Raed al-Attar, who was the leader of Qassam in the south. And in that period of time in the south, Rafah was a significantly important command because of the tunnel trade in and out in that era. And also there was a number of significant special forces operations that were led from the south, of course, most notably the Gilad Shalit capture, the capture of the Israeli tank gunner in 2006. Mohammed Shabana's fingerprints were all over that operation. And he contributed across all departments. So he was a senior figure in media, in logistics, and special forces. And ultimately, it was Shabana who purchased hundreds of cameras and hard drives for the military media apparatus to watch it grow. Also, two of his sons were Nukba fighters, elite fighters that were killed during the Battle of Rafah, which is often the case with these fighters. Their families are involved deeply in the struggle and have for multiple generations. So that is the case with Mohammed Shabana as well. We can look at the next slide, was Raed Saad, who I reported on last show. He was killed in an assassination earlier this month while driving in Gaza City, complete violation of the ceasefire. The Americans said they were going to look into that, but they didn't look into it. And as we heard Trump yesterday saying that he has no problems with anything Israel's doing. So that's a harbinger of the way that Israel plans to carry forth in Gaza, that carry out these assassinations whenever they want. which sets up a very fraught dynamic for a ceasefire to hold. Brad Saad was the first ever Gaza Brigade commander, Gaza City, when they were setting those up after the Second Intifada, during and after the Second Intifada, when they were really, the Qassam Brigades were moving from an operatives-based organization to really a rooted military structure. And Rad Saad was critical in that development as well. He was operations chief in the 2010s, and then ultimately the commander of military manufacturing, which produced the locally made weapons that were used on October 7th and for the 2-year defense of Gaza. And we saw those weapons that were built in Gaza not run out for the battle, and it ends up being a key part of the story. And the next slide is Hakim Al-Issa, and he was an academy builder in the Qassam military academies, the war colleges, we would call them here, the military academies, the training of the fighters, the theory that they fight under, the preparations, and those academies in Qassam grew really significantly under Hakim Issa. He came from abroad, brought his expertise from Lebanon, Iran, and Syria into the Gaza Strip, and worked with a number of the military academies, and ultimately his final position was in the combat weapons directorate. So key leadership figures. He was assassinated back in June, and then the next one we have here is Abu Ubaidah. And the spokesperson said, "Today we reveal his real name." And this is Hudayfa Samir Abdullah Al-Khalut. He was killed in August in an assassination in Al Ramal that targeted his house. He was found out that his kunya is not Abu Ubaidah, but it's Abu Ibrahim. And the new Abu Ubaidah said that Hudayfa Al-Khalut was an icon of the free people of the world, the pulse of Palestine, never cut off from his people, even in the darkest of circumstances. His addresses from the heart of the battle for 2 decades set the tone for the resistance in Gaza. Our enemy's audience often waited for him before his own people to hear his decisive word. We know that is true from the Israelis. Abu Ubaidah was assassinated while visiting his family, which is an important note because this detail indicates that he had somehow outed his place of visiting his family, but not outed the military media apparatus. Because if Israel had access to the military media apparatus, we would have seen the unraveling of that apparatus over the final months that we did not see. And we didn't see the assassination in a bunker or in a tunnel. It was in his house. And so the 2 years of war with the United States and Israel's assets flying over constantly, their surveillance, their most expensive surveillance in the world, and they have no idea how the military media apparatus functions. And I think that that's a real interesting detail. 11 civilians were killed, including a number of his children were killed in that assassination. If we look at the next slide, you could see this is an important slide from before October 7th. This is from the Al Jazeera documentary that showed footage from the Qassam brigades of the leadership planning. He's standing here over a detailed map that covers the entire table. We can see that even better in the next slide, where he's working here planning out October 7th. He's not a spokesperson, and that is something that's really important to say. He was the head of the military media apparatus, and that is far more than a spokesperson. So you can see him here with Mohammed Al-Daif on the left there, Rafa Salama there on the right, and on the far right is the head of military intelligence for the Qassam brigades planning out this operation. And this was the first time that we saw Mohammed Daif's face or Abu Ubaidah's, and this footage was captured by the Israelis inside Gaza. That's from the Al Jazeera documentary. If we look at the next slide, the Israelis were really interesting here, and just a couple things that I wanted to point out about the way the Israelis, after assassinating Abu Ubaidah, they released a whole bunch of material that they said showed his role in the media apparatus, and some of it is interesting to hear from their perspective. But Army Radio said that in the background of Trump's statement last night, this is from some months ago, this would be early September, according to Trump, Israel is losing the public relations war in Gaza, quote unquote. And that is because of Abu Ubaidah, according to Israeli Army Radio. They said Qassam's military media apparatus included about 1,500 fighters, in comparison about twice as many as the regular IDF soldiers has in equivalent units, the IDF spokesman and influence department. So they're right out here getting ahead of this, being like, oh, the reason why Qassam's media was 10 times better than us is because they had more people in the command of it. It's very interesting, and they have a number of things that they said in here that are just plain wrong. That Hamas publishes videos, that they stream the videos from the helmet cams, from the head cams, from the GoPros. They stream it to a central location, which is not true. And if they did do that, would have been the reason why they would have gotten. They probably wouldn't have lasted the war if they operated on that manner. But just the confidence with which Army Radio says that the units of fighters transmitted back to a war room where they would receive the materials in real time, so it didn't matter if the squad was eliminated. The video material exists. That's not true. The video material existed. If the fighters were killed, that video was lost, and that shows you the number of fighters that were still in the battle. And Israel wants to cover that up by saying that everything, no matter, we killed all these fighters, don't worry about it, because they project their footage back to a main base. He said, Army Radio said that Abu Ubaidah was personally involved in every Hamas combat procedure. No military move by Hamas in recent years, Protective Edge, the Great March of Return, Guardian of the Walls, and of course October 7th would have been carried out without the approval of being accompanied by a standard combat procedure and the approval of Abu Ubaidah. So they're really setting him up as the key figure in the military media apparatus, which is interesting to note, because if that is true, that they have 1,500 members of this apparatus, that gives you an indication of both the size of the organization, but also the quality figures that can come and replace that, because they have that architecture already in place. So interesting to note from the IDF, because of course, even if it is true that Qassam has twice the number of media reporters embedded with their units than the IDF, the IDF footage, you couldn't get the same footage as Qassam, because the IDF doesn't fight the same way. They don't fight tactically with the acumen of the Qassam fighters. They don't have the courage of the Qassam fighters, and that's why we saw from the Israeli media apparatus Israeli soldiers shooting at walls and whatnot. We can go to the next slide, because it gives you a sense of how long this has been going. Here's Abu Ubaidah at his desk back in 2005, and this is just after the disengagement. And you can see a young Abu Ubaidah who's at this point still a teenager. And the way that Abu Ubaidah came about to be the spokesperson was actually unexpected. He was fighting in the battle at the time in northern Gaza, the Battle of Jabalia in 2004. I covered that previously on the show, a 2-week battle in Jabalia camp, Beit Hanun and Beit Lahia, that went on for 2 weeks. It was a total siege. A lot of things that looked like Gaza today, but just on a smaller, more confined area. And Abu Ubaidah was in that battle, fought in that battle. and was going to be the person to deliver anonymously the message from that battle. The intention was that 𝐤𝐿 would have these fighters be anonymous and give their battlefield update. And Abu Ubaidah did such a good job that nobody else ever did that again. And from that moment in 2004 on, every time the resistance spoke, it was Abu Ubaidah who did that, who delivered that. If we look at the next slide, you can see them working here in the media office. The trajectory of the media office really does begin with the Second Intifada. The formalized, of course, they released statements before in previous eras. Of course, we know back in the First Intifada in the 1980s, they would release field reports and communiques of all types. But as the digital age came about, the internet came about, the Second Intifada came about, all those things kind of came together, coalesced with the growth of the information office of the media apparatus, military media apparatus. And you can see the fighters in here working on that apparatus. The next slide shows the cameraman here. You can see he's got the old tape video camera going back, shooting training sessions, that's the difficulty in that era, was that your camera was the size of like a small car. But as digital and the internet came in subsequent years, 𝐤𝐿, of course, adapted and made it so that the GoPro camera, the car backing, the reverse camera was used out of cars. They had thousands of GoPro cameras. And so as technology developed, so did the organization develop. They went from having a single cameraman in 2001, which is what you're looking at here, to 4 in 2002, and it grew from there, which straddles the development of of video and digital video along with the internet. So they were right on the cutting edge of that process. We can see the next slide here, Abu Ubaidah as a kid at the media office. And that's how he started. He used to start with the black mask and the red keffiyeh, black keffiyeh first, and then red keffiyeh later on. That became his symbol. And yes, and the story of their media development is really a story of Abu Ubaidah. He was obviously an extraordinarily qualified figure to build that movement, and that movement that he built is not an individual. It's a massive apparatus within each unit, within each company, even at the squad level, all the way along through the organization. There's an embedded military media member within that organization. So a long history, and it will be resilient, the military media apparatus, despite losing Abu Ubaidah. And the final slide is, of course, something we'll see in the coming weeks, but this was from 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐿 in Lebanon, citing here we see Abu Hamza and Abu Ubaidah. They speak the truth while they were alive, and their positions are immortalized after their departure. And the new Abu Ubaidah signed off his speech yesterday the same way the original Abu Ubaidah signed off, by saying it's victory or martyrdom. So that is the resistance report for day 816 of Gaza, of the genocide in Gaza.
Wow, thank you for that, Jon. Yeah, it's so significant, the continuity, the re-adoption of the nom de guerre, Abu Ubaidah, I think is so, it's an important component to this, because it's not about the individual person, it's about the movement, it's about the struggle for liberation. And, the Zapatistas did that as well, continuing the nom de guerre, trying to really separate the person from the politics, and the movement is, but of course, it is a significant historical moment as well.
And people in Palestine, across Palestine, around the world, are noting it. It's remarkable to me that despite the demonization that Hamas in general have been subjected to, the resistance in general, and these individuals, that yet people all around the world view them with a great deal of significance and respect, which goes to show the gulf between the media and the messages from Western governments in Israel, and on the one hand, and the perception that people have on the other, where they don't see these people as terrorists at all. So that's a wide, notable gulf.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jon. We are right up against the clock. I know that we want to get in a few more items before we sign off. Yeah, why don't we talk about just one newsy item that concerns a contributor, a longtime contributor to the Electronic Intifada.
Yeah, thanks, Nora. This is very important, I think, to talk about, because as we all know, there is constant and growing repression of anyone who talks about Palestine across the West. And one person who is face to face with that repression right now is Tony Greenstein. He is I know he's known to many people who are watching. For those who don't know him, he's a 72-year-old grandfather and carer. He is a Jewish socialist activist, writer, and trade unionist. He has a decades-long track record of fighting for social justice and equality and opposing racism, fascism, colonialism, and imperialism. And many will know that Tony Greenstein is a longtime contributor to the Electronic Intifada, and he is also the author of Zionism During the Holocaust. He actually appeared on an Electronic Intifada podcast episode in 2022, where he spoke with Nora and Asa about how Zionists collaborated with the Nazis during the Holocaust. And it's actually one of our most viewed episodes ever. And that just goes to show how much of a public service Tony has done with his scholarship on this topic. Now, Tony wrote an article that is published by Middle East Monitor, and I want to read some of it because he puts things better than I can. There it is. The penalty for disagreeing with government policy on Palestine is 14 years in prison. And here is what Tony writes. On January 5th, I will go on trial at Kingston Crown Court charged with an offense under Section 12 of the Terrorism Act 2000. This is, of course, in the UK. The maximum penalty if found guilty is 14 years in jail. There are others due to follow me. You might be forgiven for thinking that my offense was preparing a bomb intended for the Israeli embassy. In fact, it was disagreeing with government policy and received opinion. I was arrested on 20 December 2023 by counterterrorism police in a dawn raid under the Terrorism Act 2000. My crime was posting a tweet 1 month previously saying that I supported the Palestinian resistance against the Israeli Defense Forces. The anti-terrorism police are reminiscent of the thought police, ThinkPol, in George Orwell's 1984, who spent their time hunting down thought crime. Britain's equivalent seized my electronic devices, computers, laptop, mobile phone, etc. When I applied to the courts to recover these items, the police justified their retention by saying that they would provide a highly relevant insight into my mind. Then Tony writes, over the past several months, I have been watching with growing professional alarm and personal trepidation what I can only describe as a campaign of political intimidation and persecution of a number of journalists in the UK. The journalists who have been targeted share one thing in common. They report and comment on Israel's actions in Gaza from a critical perspective that judges those actions to be genocidal. And finally, Tony says, I now find myself in a situation where for the first time in my 36-year professional career, I'm no longer sure what by law I can write or say in my capacity as a journalist on an issue of major international importance. The fact that Hamas was freely elected as the government of Gaza in 2006 is irrelevant. By opposing Israel militarily, they have become terrorists. I have been charged with inviting support for a proscribed organization. By posting a blog, full support for the Gaza ghetto uprising, I was inviting support for Hamas as an organization. Those are the charges that Tony is facing trial on January. And I actually spoke with Tony on the phone earlier today, and he recorded this very small message this very short message he wanted to share with viewers and listeners today. So we can play that now.
January the 5th, next year, I will be on trial under the Terrorism Act, Section 12, and I allege that I am guilty of inviting support for a proscribed organization, Hamas. In fact, what I did was say I support October the 7th. It wasn't a question of Hamas, etc. But this is a blatant attempt to use the Terrorism Act to shut down free speech on Palestine. And it's important, not just because of me, but because the law is being used against other prominent people in the Palestine solidarity movement to shut down and to attack the movement. So if I'm convicted, it's more likely others will also be. But if I'm acquitted, then the CPS, Crown Prosecution Service, may drop it altogether. This is quite novel in a way, so it's important that we defeat them at the first opportunity. Thank you.
Wow. So that was Tony Greenstein, 72 years old and facing a real prospect of prison if he's found guilty in his trial that begins on January 5th. I asked him what he expected would happen, and he said he doesn't know. He obviously hopes for an acquittal. There are efforts, there are appeals going on against the basis for the charges. So I don't know if they may succeed in getting the trial further postponed. But as of now, he is standing trial at Kingston Crown Court in Kingston upon Thames in the UK. And there is a website where you can learn more and learn about the ways that you can support Tony if you want to. And as he makes the point very strongly, this is about defeating the whole campaign of UK government persecution. It's about him, but it's not just about him. And that website is justicefortonygreenstein.org. And there is a rally on Monday, January 5th at 9 a.m. outside Kingston Crown Court, the time his trial is expected to start. And again, his website, justicefortonygreenstein.org, will also have information on his crowdfunder. I believe that's how he's funding his legal defense and other ways that you can support and learn about his case. So solidarity with Tony Greenstein.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tony has taught me personally so much about Zionism and the history of its evilness. And so, yeah, let's continue to cover this. And in the new year, of course, we'll have updates on Tony's case. All right. Well, we have just maybe a minute left. Let's take one or two last questions from the audience, maybe just to kind of wrap it up in a nice bow. Let's see, Tamara, why don't you choose one? There we go. Here we go. This is from Suffolk Stoic. What is each of your go-tos for strength, hope, and respite, given that you all have to deal with so much horror? I suspect we all have something we turn to in times of needing a haven from evil. Ali, what's your respite?
Well, I'm lucky to be able to get any kind of respite because, you know, what our friends and colleagues in Gaza always tell us is there is no respite for them. They are utterly exhausted, and there's no way to shut it out. Maybe people find small ways, but for me, it's really just getting out into nature, going hiking or camping, being around trees and birds is what I find restorative. And as much as I can do that, I was able to do that for a couple of days this past weekend when we had a slight thaw in the Midwestern deep freeze. It got above freezing. I took the opportunity and I went out, and that's all I ask for. And of course, it goes without saying to be around friends and family and people who share the same horror. I mean, who couldn't? But there are people apparently who don't. That's all you need is nature and good people.
That's right. Jon, what's your respite?
I didn't respite much. I think that's the way that I handled it.
We encouraged you to, though. We tried to get you to.
People encouraged me to try to be more normal, but yeah,
it's all relative.
Getting outside is great. Playing shinny hockey when I can.
Shinny?
Yeah, that's what we call it here in Canada.
Shinny
just
hockey.
Skates and sticks.
Huh.
And
shinny meaning get your shins bashed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Doesn't sound fun.
Good. Asa, how do you respite?
I guess my answer is quite similar to Ali's. I try and I do get back to Wales and visit my family there and get out in nature when I can. And yeah, that right. And nerd stuff.
Nerd stuff like
Lord of the Rings.
Classic.
Yeah, those kind of nerd things. Yeah.
Very wholesome.
Love it.
What about you, Nora?
Me, I don't know. I moved through different hyper fixations. So I was doing crochet. I did pottery. I'm doing stickers now. I play and listen to music. I have kids I have to, interact with. And I watch really good shows. I am obsessed with a show about hockey right now. I've already watched it twice, all the way through, and it's beautiful, and it kind of helps put together the little squishy heart that's somewhat struggling all the time inside. So that's been really lovely, and I encourage everyone to watch Heated Rivalry on HBO. It's really good. It's a Canadian show, and it's hockey, so it's good. All right, and maybe one more. I want to know more about all of you at EI. Like, what are your backgrounds? Oh, this is a long one. I don't know if
this feels like a show, not a final question.
Exactly. Maybe we'll save that for a different show. But I'm sure. I mean, all of us have talked about our backgrounds in various other platforms. All right, same. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 says, I wish everyone a wonderful year 2026 and justice for Palestine and every Palestinian. Amen.
Amen.
That's it. That's what we all want. That's what we all have to work for and protect. And that's I think a good way to leave it. Thank you, EI crew, for your fantastic work this year, and all the best for 2026. You guys and gals are the best of humanity. Thank you so much. I just, of course, maybe we can bring her back one more time. Tamara, our captain, captain, my captain, Tamara Nassar. Thank you, Tamara, for everything that you do all the time, every day, all day. Yeah, it's been a rough 2 years for this planet.
And we found, you know, it's been a rough 2 years for this planet. It's ongoing horror in Gaza, across Palestine. We're going to have a lot to cover in 2026. I mean, we scarcely have time to stop and reflect about what we do. We said this before we started this live stream on October 9th, 2023. That was our first show with our dear friend, Dr. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 as our first ever guest. And we've been going since then and learning along the way. I mean, you know, I had no experience doing this kind of live broadcasting. And you know, many of you have been with us from the start, week in, week out. And you have been so encouraging to us, so supportive, so understanding. And, you know, believe me when I say it, that means the world to us. And that's helped us through this. It continues to help us through this. And all your notes, your emails, your letters, I wish I could really express in words how much they mean to all of us. I've been sharing them with the team, some of the lovely notes people have been sending to us, sharing them with the team, and they really touch us. And everything we do is with your support. So thank you. And we wish everyone a wonderful new year as well. We should do a reminder, if I may, that I am going to try and send stickers to everyone who just today, December 30th, because I know this is going to live on YouTube and other channels. But today, December 30th, if you send us your name and address to questions@electronicintifada.net, we're going to send you a rose sticker. We're going to do it. And then we'll also have the draw for the whole sticker set and for the We Are Not Numbers book. And it might take a few weeks. Be patient, because, you know, we got to organize it all, but we'll get it done. We did last year and we will this year. And that's just a small way for us to say thank you. I wish we could thank everyone individually, but please know how much your support means to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, of course, Tamara. Thank you to Ahmed and Abubaker. And thank you to everyone behind the scenes, everyone at the Electronic Intifada. We work with the best people possible.
Someone just said, and sorry, Nora, someone said to say the address again. So
Great.
just, it's there on the screen, scrolling, questions@electronicintifada.net. That's where you should email. You don't have to make a donation to get a sticker today or to be entered in the draw. But if you want to make a donation and support our work, you can go to electronicintifada.net and click donate now, or you'll find those links in the description to the YouTube video. So just because someone had said, please say it one more time. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of myself, Tamara, Asa, John, and Ali, and everyone at the Electronic Intifada, thank you so much, and we will see you in the new year.